let's just review the history of the 5th of November in the history of human beings speaking English language, most of whom celebrated in America. And when you find out the reason, then it'll make sense why we're also going to preface it with Coleon Noir talking about the Second Amendment. And then we'll get to TruthStream Media's masterful addition to this week's election media was the 5th of November, a holiday Americans forgot, but just remembered.
Okay. Let's talk about the Second Amendment. Now, I know you've heard it all before. The back and forth debates, the heated arguments, the quotes taken out of context. Some folks think it's about hunting. Others think it's about the National Guard. But what if I told you that the Second Amendment isn't just about what you can do with a gun, but more importantly, what the government can't do to stop you? So let's set the scene. Imagine it's the late 1700s. The founding fathers had just gone toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful empires in the world, the British. These men and women had witnessed firsthand what happens when a government decides it holds all the power, when a king thousands of miles away decides he knows best for the colony. The American Revolution wasn't just a war, it was a wake-up call. And when the smoke cleared, the founding fathers were determined to create a system where the people were the true power brokers. So let's clear some confusion up real quickly. Now, here's where we get to that word, well-regulated. Some folks think it means government regulation, rules, restrictions, red tape. But back in the 18th century, well-regulated meant something very different. It was about being in good working order, well-prepared, functioning as intended. It was about the people, ordinary citizens, having the skills, tools, and readiness to come together and defend themselves from tyranny. It wasn't about government control. It was about ensuring that a free people could remain free by their own hands. So now let's talk about the purpose of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment doesn't say the government gives you the right to bear arms. It assumes you already have that right because it's a natural fundamental right that exists outside of government permission. The Second Amendment is the founders' way of saying to the government, hey, this is off limits. You don't get to touch this. It's a restriction on them, not you. That's why it's called a Bill of Rights and not a bill of what the people can't do. So now let's debunk this whole militia myth. Now, when people hear the word militia, they often think of some formal government-run entity like the National Guard. But to the founders, militia was you, me, your neighbor, the blacksmith, the farmer down the road. It was every able-bodied person who could take up arms in defense of themselves, their family, and their community. The militia wasn't about restricting rights to a select few. It was about empowering every citizen. It was an acknowledgement that you have a duty to protect yourself when no one else can. So, what lessons can we learn from history regarding the Second Amendment? Time and again, we've seen governments, when unchecked, slide towards authoritarianism. Take Nazi Germany, for example. In the 1930s, the Nazi regime passed strict gun control laws, disarming Jewish citizens and political opponents. The goal was simple: to eliminate any potential resistance. Without the means to fight back, those citizens became vulnerable to the oppression, resulting in one of the darkest chapters in human history. Look at the Soviet Union under Stalin. In the early 20th century, the Soviet government heavily restricted gun ownership, ensuring only the state had control over weapons. This disarmament allowed the government to suppress dissent, silence political opponents, and enforce brutal policies leading to millions of deaths. Or take Mao's China. In the mid-20th century, the Communist Party imposed strict gun control, which left ordinary citizens powerless against the state's brutal policies. Disarmed and unable to resist, the Chinese people endured widespread prosecution, oppression, and famine during the Cultural Revolution. Well, what about modern times? Well, in Venezuela, the government implemented strict gun control laws in 2027, effectively disarming the civilian population. Fast forward a few years, and you have a country in economic collapse with a government that remains firmly in power despite widespread protests. When citizens took to the streets to demand change, they were met with government crackdowns. Without the means to defend themselves, the people's power was diminished. Or look at Hong Kong, where strict firearm laws mean the citizens protesting for democracy and autonomy are largely unarmed. Meanwhile, a powerful state with all the weapons controls the streets, limiting how far those protests can go. It's a stark reminder that a disarmed population is at the mercy of those in power. So what is the purpose of the Second Amendment today? The founders understood that governments, over time, have a tendency to accumulate power to the point of corruption. They saw it in their own lifetimes with the British Crown, and they knew it could happen again here in America. That's why they didn't just want to give you the right to own a gun. They wanted to make sure the government couldn't take that right away. The Second Amendment is like a guardrail preventing those in power from driving us off the cliff of tyranny. It's not about deer hunting or target shooting. It's about power. And who gets to hold it? You or only them? Think about it. The Second Amendment is there to empower you. It's a reminder that you are not a helpless subject at the mercy of the state. You are a citizen with rights, dignity, and the ability to protect yourself and your loved ones. It's not a gift from the government. It's a shield against the government tyranny. The founders weren't worried about hunting regulations. They were worried about oppressive regulations. So the next time someone tells you that the Second Amendment is outdated or that it only is about the militia or hunting, remember this. It was written to protect you from anyone who thinks they know what's best for you. It's a declaration that you matter, that your safety matters, and that your ability to stand up for yourself matters. It's not about what you can do with a gun. It's about what the government can't do to take away your right to have one. At the end of the day, the Second Amendment is an equalizer. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, or what you believe in. It's about your right to exist free from tyranny, to defend your freedom, and to hold on to the power that is rightfully yours. The founders got it right then, and it's still right now. Now, I know some of y'all are watching this wondering about the shirt that I'm wearing right now, the anti-two-way social club. Well, as you can see, it's also on the back. Now, here's the thing. This isn't just another t-shirt. It's a symbol of defiance. It's a call to action for those who refuse to be silenced. We live in an era where the mainstream media wants to marginalize gun owners and paint us as villains and strip away our rights. The anti-two-way social club is for those who are done with the misinformation, the double standards, and the endless attacks on our freedom. We are not backing down, and we definitely are not alone. We're part of a growing movement of people who know that the Second Amendment isn't just about firearms. It's about freedom, self-reliance, and the right to protect our loved ones. This shirt speaks for every one of us who believe that our rights are non-negotiable, that the Second Amendment is as relevant today as it was when it was written. This isn't just about guns. It's about a way of life that celebrates individual freedom, personal responsibility, and standing up for what's right. The anti-two-way social club is for those who believe that the best way to honor our rights is to exercise them. It's for those who are tired of seeing our communities demonized by those who don't understand and, more importantly, don't care. So, if you're proud to be on the right side of history, the real right side of history, not the one made up by people who are trying to rewrite it from the standpoint of being anti-two-way, if you believe in the power of a free people, then throw this on and let the world know exactly where you stand. Because it's more than a shirt. It is a badge of honor.
Tell me, do you know what day it is, Evie?
The things they don't teach us in America about our own history could fill so many volumes, and especially when it comes to our shared history with England. They boiled all of that history down into one little moment in time, basically, and then just kind of threw everything else away. If Americans these days know about the 5th of November, it's likely because they watched V for Vendetta.
Remember the 5th of November.
The 5th of November is known as Guy Fawkes Night in England, or Bonfire Night, and it began after the gunpowder plot of November 5th, 1605 was foiled when Guy Fawkes was arrested guarding explosives that the alleged plotters had placed under the House of Lords. The plotters were Catholic, and They apparently intended to assassinate Protestant King James I and his parliament. The bonfires and fireworks displays, very much like July 4th here in America, the fireworks displays on November 5th, happened across England, and it became an annual celebration of how God protected the king and his parliament, the Protestant king and his parliament, from the Catholic plotters. Actually, the following year in 1606, an Observance Act was passed mandating that date to be an annual public day of Thanksgiving, which remained on the statute in England until 1859. And I'm sure that you would all be really shocked to hear that there's some evidence that the gunpowder plot was actually a false flag.
A more perfect stage could not be asked for.
There's actually a book that was written in 1897 called What Was the Gunpowder Plot? The Traditional Story Tested by Original Evidence, which raises some pretty good questions and points out that not only was the government immediately suspected at the time widely of having contrived or somehow fomented this plot, but there was evidence that the government was fully aware that this was in progress and knew about it months in advance at the very least and allowed it to play out in a certain way in order that the government could discover the plot and stop it for religious and political gain and also to promote legislation. And one of the guys that is suspected as being behind it was the Royal Chancellor, Sir Robert Cecil, the Earl of Salisbury, who has been likened in the modern day to the Dick Cheney of his time, who would have contrived the plot under Queen Elizabeth, actually, but couldn't do it at the time because she passed away, so he brought it back under James I. And the goal was to make Catholicism so odious to the British people that they could expel all the Roman Catholics from the country and confiscate all of their estates, while also boosting the idea that God had chosen to protect Protestant King James and his parliament via the chosen religion. So it gives more power to the state. Basically, the idea is they foiled their own plot. I will say the government had a full detailed official story all sealed up and ready to deliver to the British people by November 7th. They had all the details, everything lined out, everything to happen. They had solved the whole case in like less than 48 hours, which is just amazing police work for 1605. Cecil was also part of something called the War Party, which had a goal of pushing King James into a war with the Spanish Empire, which of course would have made them all very wealthy. After this was over, England became very fixated on concepts like homeland security. I mean, it's just, if you look into this rabbit hole, you'll find a very, very familiar story in here.
The rest, as they say, is history.
But anyway, I mean, I don't know. If you're at all aware of the history of false flags, this whole thing sounds remarkably familiar.
Can you prove any of this? Why do you think I'm still alive?
But what most Americans were probably never taught is that the 5th of November became Pope's Day or Pope's Night here in the American colonies. So this was widely celebrated here for a long time. In fact, there's some evidence that it was first celebrated in American colonies in Plymouth back in 1623. And it was going pretty strong in the 25 years leading up to the American Revolution, all up and down the coast. In New York City, as far south as Charleston, but most especially and famously in Boston. In Boston, Pope's Night was this annual ritual of reversal where the plebs, the lower classes, ruled the city for a day. Boys and girls of all ages, they would go door to door, kind of like mummers, and they would beg for money and treats, sort of like Halloween. But the big show came in the evening when two companies, the North End Company and the South End Company, very similar sounding to the way crews who design and parade Mardi Gras floats do. They would, the North End Company and the South End Company would parade giant effigies of the Pope, the Devil, and the Pretender, which is the pretender to the throne, James Stuart, whose son Charles led the failed 1745 Jacobite uprising in England in a bid to regain the throne for his father. So that failed, but these companies for Pope's Night in Boston would make those effigies and they would put them on wagons and they would parade them through town every year on the 5th of November. People would chant "No Popery," and they would battle it out to see who could destroy the other company's effigies. And then they would take all that stuff and they would go to the Green, the Boston Common, and they would burn it. Like whoever lost got their stuff burned in a giant bonfire. But the reason this is important to know about is because the organized resistance to the Stamp Act, which is the event that pretty much precipitated and ultimately accelerated the lead up to the American Revolution, the organized resistance to the Stamp Act drew off of these two companies in Boston. Ebenezer McIntosh was a shoemaker. He was the captain of the South End Company, and he would later become nicknamed the captain of the Liberty Tree in these protests, which is another symbol that we're not really taught about in school at all, that some historians, such as Alfred Young, who wrote about it, said that it was purposefully forgotten by the elites who kind of wanted to put the genie back in the bottle of radical revolution, because without the Liberty Tree, there would have been no American Revolution. That's just straight up. So there's a reason it's been purposefully forgotten and not just forgotten to history. This one was purposefully forgotten. But you had the merchant class together with the middle class, the popular leaders of the middle class together with the lower classes. Everybody was uniting together around these ideas of fighting off these taxes, no taxation without representation, and the ideas of liberty. It united everyone across the board. Women were getting political for the first time. Teenagers were getting political. Slaves were getting political. Everybody was getting political at this time. So the Pope's Day kind of flipped over and became patriotic in the fight against King George and the British monarchy system. You had the North and South companies, the Pope's Day companies, coming together and uniting and calling a truce so they could join forces to be part of this organized set of actions that took place to defeat the Stamp Act, followed by a massive community celebration of the Act's repeal, which everybody participated in and celebrated. It was a huge, huge, big deal. Everyone was out in the streets celebrating that together. And the shouts of "No Popery" changed over to shouts of liberty and property. And John Hancock, who was the wealthiest person in Boston at the time, he bought the officers of the company's uniforms and kind of unofficially drafted them as leaders in this resistance in the massive public protests that were happening in the lead up to the American Revolution. So these unofficial officers from these Pope's Day companies became like white hats in keeping the violence to a minimum in these protests and keeping things orderly. So instead of today, for example, where you have agent provocateurs who will infiltrate a peaceful protest and turn it violent so it can make it look bad and undermine the entire purpose of the protest, these guys, these Pope's Day guys who were drafted by Hancock, they would go through the crowd with their own motto, which was literally, quote, "No violence or you will hurt the cause." And without those guys, I mean, things probably would have been a lot more violent. There were a few tarrings and featherings. It wasn't as common as they make it seem these days when they talk about it, but things could have been so much worse. It wasn't just crazy mob riots. It was organized protests with a purpose that were very peaceful by comparison to a lot of revolutions that have occurred in human history. So unfortunately, those companies' truce broke in 1773 and it all kind of fell apart, and the Boston leaders banned Pope's Day in 1774. And then it got kind of double banned because General Washington banned it among his soldiers in 1775 because America was trying to solicit help from French Canada. And he was like, hey, it doesn't really make sense to insult the religion of an entire country we're trying to get to help us in our revolution against Britain. So maybe we should probably stop doing that. But this moment in history where they shifted a community ritual like Pope's Day and turned it patriotic to use it in uniting the people to fight the Stamp Act across all sectors of society, uniting these people to come up against this, was a huge shift in the consciousness of the colonies. It's just kind of interesting how forgotten this part of the history is, because people know, I mean, some people know about the Stamp Act and how it precipitated the American Revolution, but a lot of people don't realize that the Stamp Act was built on the back of Pope's Day, which is remember the 5th of November. And so in a way, without Pope's Day, Pope's Night, without the organized protesting of the Stamp Act that was built off of the community rituals of Pope's Night, it wouldn't have happened that way. It's just kind of strange how much of our history in this country has been forgotten, and some of it very purposefully. They don't want the people to have the formulas for how to change things. It's really clear. Once you do the research, it's pretty clear. And I guess I just wanted to tell you guys about that because it's really strange this year how it just so happened that Britain had their elections on the 4th of July, and our election happens to fall on the 5th of November. Strange how that works out for what has got to be the craziest election I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
All right, well-placed thoughts for your consideration by Truth Stream Media, and well-timed as well. Now, if you grew up in America and you did not know the history of the Liberty Tree and the Liberty Pole and the Phrygian Cap and all that stuff that was just referred to in there, I would say you probably grew up in America under British influence. But I empathize with your plight, and I have thoughtfully arranged a model that brings a lot of this together. Now, the Liberty Pole and the Liberty Cap over here, right, are concepts that were popularized through history over, thousands of years. If you want to get into it, you would see attributions, and I'll show you the symbol here. Let's go to the browser. This is the symbol. This is called a Phrygian cap, and it has a long history. It's also called a Liberty Cap, and this history was not forgotten. These are the origins of revolution. They do not want you to know the things that they don't want you to know. That's part of the censorship regime, right? So this has a long history, and the iconography of rebellion and the Phrygian cap goes back a long time, but it does have in Western society very substantial use and meaning, to the point where they put it on their most esteemed objects like the Morgan silver dollar and the seal of the United States Senate and the seal of the United States Army. And this will protect, is what it says, right? They are protecting that which they will not allow you to have, which is knowledge of these sort of things. So aside from, the Smurfs popularizing Phrygian caps, Washington, Irving, Rip Van Winkle, there's a whole bunch of parts of American history that have been melded together with it. But if you go back, you go to the French Revolution, to the Bavarian Illuminati, to the Mithraic Mysteries. Oh, what's that? Does that have influence over the world today? Is the Bank of England built on a Mithraic ritual sacrifice shrine? Yes, it is. Does this have influence over the people who consider themselves our betters? Yes, and they don't want you to know about the Phrygian Cap of Revolution or the history that might accommodate it, like Liberty Caps and Liberty Poles. Right, here's a Liberty Pole. Let's go back to the browser. Looky, this used to be a thing. Now, if you don't know about it, you might be living under some sort of occupied schooling system and want to just start reading what's available. This isn't even hidden. You just have to know where to read stuff. Okay, these are elements of history that they have tried to take away from you in a very cunning attempt to deceive you out of your freedom. There you go, 1793 by Goethe. Oh, Goethe, there you go. There's a little history. I didn't even know about that. I've seen the picture, but I didn't know the origin. So, for those playing at home, we all have a lot of learning to do to catch up with what they're doing and what's going on. And I think this week has been very exciting in a multitude of ways, some of which we're about to get into in the next block. But Scott, we just saw that all together. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, man, that's amazing stuff. So, obviously, I think I've heard about I've heard about the Liberty Tree. I didn't really realize it in the context of the way they described there. So that was a good refresher. The Liberty Cap, really, my only association with
It's
that was,
also a mushroom.
I
There's a
was just gonna say
psychedelic
was
mushroom called
psychedelic
Liberty Cap.
mushrooms,
Yeah.
right? My younger
No
days, right?
connection though.
The Liberty
No
Cap,
connection
right?
between that experience and slaves
Yeah.
rebelling. I just
No,
want to
none
put
at
that
all.
on the record. Make
None
sure
at
that's
all.
clear.
Not at all. And it kind of reminded me that I've never heard of the Liberty Cap, Phrygian Cap. It reminded me of like the Seven Dwarfs. Looks like a Seven Dwarfs hat. So I don't know if they kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if there's something there, but
It's all throughout the Library of Congress. It's
yeah, it's so
popular
interesting.
in Rosicrucian symbology. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That it's literally on the seal of like Congress. Like that's so crazy.
It's
But
on the seal of the army, and it says
the
this
army.
will defend.
Wow, that's so
Right. So like
crazy.
it's right in front of our eyes. It's all over
Yeah.
the place in there, throughout the Congress and stuff. So
So crazy.
learning how to decrypt some of those symbols that they
Yeah.
use, like the fasces. The fasces are a bundle of sticks with an axe on the outside. It's a show of strength through unity and force. It's an ancient Roman symbol. They put it under the hands of Lincoln after they killed him and made the big marble guy in DC, Lincoln Memorial guy.
Yep. Exactly.
So the fasces are it's in the Senate, I think, or maybe the House. It's on one of the walls. Like it's right there. You just need to see what symbols are they using, and it's noise to you until you start studying it, and then there's a history to it, and they know the history and they flaunt it in front of you, which is one of the keys to decoding what they're doing. But it's not the strongest key. The strongest key is when they write it in your own language and you just read it. It's like, oh shit, they have a plan and they're doing it.
Exactly. That's why as a conspiracy analyst or whatever you want to call it, a forensic historian, that's where the frustration is because it's like it's not even me saying it. I'm using their words. Like their words are right there on the page and it's telling you exactly what they're doing. It's just so crazy. And let's see, the only other thing I was thinking, and this is not an original thought, but it's just like, before like Netflix and pornography, it's amazing like how little it took to like get people riled up, like to get the public actually like upset about the things that people are doing. Nowadays it's just like, oh man, I'm just too busy. Don't
Well,
have
you can
time.
get people riled up if you call someone Hitler. Like if you say
Yeah,
Trump's Hitler.
Yeah.
So like let's say that somebody was in the room and they're like Trump's Hitler. I'd say it's an interesting hypothesis. Let's say it's true. Does that make him better or worse? No, wait. Let's say that's true. Let me ask you a tangent question. Was he supported by George Soros in this election? No, he wasn't, was he? Okay. So is Trump supporting Nazis better or worse than George Soros actually helping the Nazis go around and hijack Jews and lead them to their death? Just weigh it out on the scale for me. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Which would
Exactly.
you like? You want me to see your side. You need to be more convincing in your facts.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too, I just want to say before we move on is just on back to the Colion Noir clip, the very first clip, and it's such a good point. He really hammered it home. Like there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the Second Amendment's all about. And really at the end of the day, it's like the ultimate check and balance. Because we have so many checks and balances built into our system. We have so many different mechanisms that try their best to kind of like, make sure one faction doesn't get out of control and do something crazy, right? But it's like the fact that America is armed and the fact that we have military grade weapons and the fact that we should be able to use them in a manner that we can defend ourselves from the ultimate onslaught or infringement of our rights. That just the notion that we have that capability is what the Second Amendment is. It's like, the fact that they know that we know that they know, the fact that we have this mechanism in place is what prevents them from pulling any crazy shit. That is the one thing that's like the big, that meme of like the little town at the bottom of the dam with all the water rushing up to the top of it. Like that dam is American citizens having firearms. You know what I mean? And that water being held back is what these tyrannical, power hungry, demonic psychopaths, what they want, what their will is. Their will would just be to run us over with pure brute force. And the fact that we have guns is what keeps them at bay. That's it. It's just the threat of us having it. You know what I mean? And so it's so important to maintain that.
Second Amendment, people being able to defend themselves. I think it makes a difference, first off, because you're not living in fear that you can't protect your family. Right. Mm-hmm. I also want to say something that's very controversial. I'm going to say I was amazed that January 6th was not more than a riot, because the people that were upset, they all owned guns. None of them took guns to the event. They were going to give, as they say, peace a chance, and verbally, through their numbers, show up and try to get some, answers to questions that are still unanswered today, but a lot more suspiciously pointing toward the people that were pointing the fingers the whole time and censoring people from being able to talk about these irregularities. So in that capacity, I see it as, first, it's disingenuous to people defending themselves and making them depend, like it makes them dependent on government. It's disingenuous to freedom. And then for those types of comments to be made amidst, like Kamala saying along the way, like, we're going to take all your guns, and Eric Holder and those guys talking about, like, we have to brainwash people into giving up their guns, right? Those are people working for the deep state that want to disarm you, put you in fear, and take control over your everything, just like Mao did, or Soviet Union, Stalin, or other tiny mustache man type activities over in Europe, right? They had to disarm the population first. So, like, unless were applauding when Hitler disarmed the Jews, you shouldn't be applauding when they try to disarm Americans.
100%. And January 6th is a great example of that, because, they understand, like, the people that were there that day understand the rules of engagement, and they understand when the level of force necessary to draw down on your own government, infringing on your rights, that threshold was not crossed. That was not what was going on. That was not the situation,
But the Democrats tried to make everyone believe that was what was going on, and that is another thing. If that was what's really going on, I'd be on your side, because I don't want to see violent revolution. I want to see the legal procedures pursued and exhausted, et cetera, et cetera. The only person who got shot that day was Ashley Babbitt in the face by some coward who worked in the Capitol, and escaped any type of punishment or prosecution. As far as I'm aware, I didn't really follow the story too much further than studying the videotape of the special SWAT team on the steps, feet away from where her face gets, hit with the bullet. They're not the least bit surprised to be getting fired at, so there's a whole scripted thing going on there too that is very troubling, because one of the assailants in there goes and changes his costume behind the armed SWAT team, which tells me, who can do that? Is that Proud Boys? No, that's the deep state, and they're on film, and no one has held them accountable to it yet. So the Ashley Babbitt thing just gives you an opportunity to see what else was going on that day, and that SWAT, special awareness teams that are, showing up to an emergency, are completely fine and didn't have to be briefed and had no questions for the violent protester who broke the window in the first place to get her shot in the face. Right? They wouldn't have been shooting if they hadn't just had the window broken by some guy with his helmet, who then goes and changes clothes right behind that. But you're not allowed to talk about that, because when it happened, we would have all been banned off YouTube, which we decided, fuck that. We're going to say stuff like that anyway. And you can go back and watch the clips of when we covered such things. Right? So in this milieu where they're trying to gaslight people out of their freedom, I think education is the most potent weapon in our arsenal. That you don't need, like, you need firearms to protect your family, yes, but that is not going to solve the problem of the deep state. What you need is to be able to speak truth in a way that can be shared easily for other people. They can pick it up and be like, yeah, that's true. And the other thing that's not so you can tell it's not true now. You can't tell that before you have comparison and contrast, which is why they censor. And censor is it's the refuge of the cowards, and it's an admission of their own intellectual bankruptcy, because they can't beat us on the field of ideas with their bullshit. That's why they make stuff up and they gaslight their audiences, and they spend billions of dollars doing that. That's disinformation. That's misinformation. And instead of saying shut the Daily Show down, I say just give the audience critical thinking, and they'll go outside the studio and see reality for themselves. I think that's the freedom solution. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And exactly what I was going to say is, like, for all of you in the audience, you can be an active participant in this information warfare dynamic, where you take this information being presented tonight on the show and you share it, throughout the week after the show airs. The GTW crew, the team, does a great job of clipping out certain segments. Like, take those clips and share them. Make sure that your friends and family are aware that this show exists. It's so important to make sure that this information gets out there because, the information is being disseminated here. But if it just stops with you, it's like the Rachel Maddow thing. If it stops with you, it ends, right? But no, we need to make sure that we're getting this information beyond you, and we're super spreaders of GTW, man. That's what we're doing here.
Yes, we will worship the Rhodes Scholar soothsayers like Rachel Maddow and George Snuffleupagus throughout the show tonight, because those Rhodes Scholars who help our American audiences see the British side of things were very disappointed. And I would blame it on an enemy, not on men, for instance. Just saying. You might want to look, front toward enemy. I didn't do it, okay? Front toward enemy. Go. You're going to see it. You're going to see it tonight. All right, so let's get into it. We first heard news of Trump's win from Mark Dice, even though I did stay up until CNN called it for him. And I was like, okay, because I remember going to bed in 2020 and Trump was winning. And it was like, the next thing you know, the guy from the basement won. And I just had trouble believing, not participating in the antics. Like, wow, that seems hard to believe. What happened there? And here's what happened there. 13 million extra votes. Anyway, we're in search of them. And I will get a milk carton t-shirt looking for these votes, because I think it's important that we find where they went, because, they ruined democracy by not showing up this time. Or maybe they ruined democracy by stealing. Like, Trump got elected 3 times. You should have just let him have his second term in 2020. You'd be done right now, and you'd have Barack Star Obama back for his 3rd term or some shit. I don't know what you guys would do. But if you guys hadn't gotten together with Time Magazine and be like, hey, let's fortify the election and make it okay with everybody. And let's, by the way, censorship anyone critiquing our taking over of your democracy and performing another coup. I don't know what you want me to do with that, but we are here in 2024 and Trump is about to become president. And here's Mark Dice et al. To start letting you know about what happened this past week in America.
Good morning. We did it. Donald Trump won the 2024 presidential election. It's currently 3:35 in the morning Central Time when I'm making this video. I haven't slept at all yet. And MSNBC and CNN still haven't called the race for Donald Trump. By the time I post this video, by the time everybody wakes up and sees it, they may have finally got around to it. But Fox News and others called it for Donald Trump after he won Pennsylvania and then Wisconsin, putting him over the top. Last night, hours ago, they'll finally get around to it. They're just in denial. And the best part is he also won the popular vote. And that was one of the reasons why I was so firm about encouraging people to get out and vote yesterday, even if they live in a deep blue state, because we needed this total victory so that the Democrats can't claim that the majority of the American people didn't want him back. By the way, we also took back the Senate. We have a majority in the Supreme Court. This is going to be fantastic. Over the coming days, weeks, months, and years, I will bring you the best of the liberal media meltdowns, because their insanity is going to go supernova. And the Liberal Tears mug is now back in stock in my online store at markdice.com. So head on over there, click the link in the description below, and check it out. And I don't know what's going to be better, the liberal media meltdowns or the memes. Probably the meltdowns, but the memes are very good as well, like this. Here's Mark Cuban after hearing the news. Donald Trump showing that he is the future 47th president of the United States. Oh, and I can't forget about this meme from Midnight Mitch, which features an actual photo of Joe Biden literally wearing a MAGA hat. Remember that one?
My fellow Americans and autists who voted for Trump, it's your boy Dank Brandon here. I want to take a moment to congratulate the DNC on losing another election to Donald Trump. You replaced me with a candidate who has the same likability as Greasy, hobo taint, and expected to win, and they say I'm the retarded one. The Democrats said that I was too old, that I was too slow, that I was a joke. Well, here's a joke for you. What do Willie Brown and the 2024 presidential election have in common? Kamala Harris blew both of them. I shouldn't have said that. But seriously, I mean, first Hillary loses to Donald and now Kamala. This man has beaten more women than Doug Emhoff. Anyways, congrats on losing to Hitler again. I hope he locked you all up this time. Dank Brandon out.
Here is just a small sample of his victory speech from last night.
much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends in this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
During his victory speech, President Trump invited Dana White, president of the UFC, up to say a few words, who gave a very inspiring little speech.
Nobody deserves this more than him, and nobody deserves this more than his family does. This is what happens when the machine comes after you. What you've seen over the last several years, this is what it looks like. Couldn't stop him. He keeps going forward. He doesn't quit. He's the most resilient, hard-working man I've ever met in my life. His family are incredible people. This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family.
Van Jones, on the other hand, over at Clown News, not so excited. Here he is when he started to see the writing on the wall.
There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months.
How are their economic dreams being crushed? Because, what, Donald Trump's not just going to hand out free money to them?
And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt.
Aww.
And they were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy. And once again, they're facing rejection. And that hurts. They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. And they're not the only people who are hurting tonight.
Well, good, because this is just the start of the Democrats getting a little taste of their own medicine. Would you like to try to hold back tears as well, Chunk Uger?
So right now, as things stand, I just came off the Young Turks show where I lit into the Democratic Party.
You're so tough. You're so brave, sir.
Bunch of losers, corporate Democrats. I hate them. They've cost us election after election. They're corrupt.
See, he doesn't think that they're left enough.
And they lost, it looks like, to a syphilitic clown. Total moron.
He's breaking down into tears.
Con man, Donald Trump. So, if you lose to a buffoon like Donald Trump twice, what does that make you?
Here's Anderson Cooper, Operation Mockingbird asset, who interned with the CIA not one, but 2 summers in college, who makes $12 million a year, $1 million a month, $40,000 per night. That's how much his soul was worth. That's a lot of money. But I'm sorry, my soul is priceless. But here's him and Jake Tapeworm breaking the news to the Clown News viewers.
And Anderson, it is hard to think of a political comeback that is actually more significant than this one. I'm tempted to say Richard Nixon, but that really falls short of what Donald Trump has achieved.
Yeah, I mean, winning not just the electoral votes, but the popular vote as well.
That's right. That's right. You scum. And that's the icing on the cake. Trump winning the popular vote because the Democrats were going to complain that they want to try to do away with the Electoral College, which is one of the most brilliant inventions in politics, which prevents 2 or 3 major cities or 2 or 3 liberal states from dominating the leadership of our country. So the candidates have to appeal to each different state in order to win those electoral votes. It's absolutely a brilliant system. So here's Chris Hayes starting the narrative early when he started to see the writing on the wall about how the Democrats want to get rid of the Electoral College.
We have this very funky and terrible system called the Electoral College, which decides elections in a way that's totally different than every other election in the United States decided and the way that anything's decided anywhere else in the world. We should scrap it.
Oh, and here's Jake Tapeworm learning how Kamala Harris did this time around compared to Joe Biden back in 2020. Wait for it.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
Literally not one county. And so the Democrats are going to be in disarray, wondering whether or not they should have kept old Joe in. But as I've said since he was declared the winner in 2020, he never intended to actually run a second term because they never expected Donald Trump to actually run for re-election. And so the plan was for Joe Biden to duck out and then say his mission has been accomplished. All he wanted to do was stop Donald Trump from ever getting in the White House. But once Donald Trump decided to run for re-election, then Joe Biden had to run again. Otherwise, he would have looked like a complete coward. They'd painted themselves into a corner. He was already starting to show signs of mental decline at the end of 2020. And so then they were screwed. And some of you owe me an apology because, as you know, I've been hammering the losers and trash who said that they weren't going to vote this time around because the Democrats stole the one in 2020 and there's just no chance that Donald Trump's going to be allowed to get in again. And those people who live in deep blue states who say that their vote doesn't even matter. Their state's going to go Democrats. Why even bother? That's what I've been hammering, not only to get you to finally get over that loser mentality and get out and vote, but also to vote for the local positions as well, because that is perhaps almost, if not just as important as the federal offices. It's late and I'm getting pretty tired, so I'm going to wrap this up, but stay tuned and check back here on a regular basis.
All right, a Fox News alert now, and from Peter Doocy, we learn that Kamala Harris just completed a phone call with President-elect Donald Trump to concede the election, to congratulate him on winning. Apparently, she discussed the importance of a peaceful transfer of power and being president for all Americans. She is going to be delivering remarks at Howard University, 4 o'clock this afternoon, so we will hear more from her there. And here's where the sleep deprivation kicks in. all morning, I've been mixing up Pennsylvania and North Carolina, and I did it again there with the chairman of the NRCC. I said that Trump won back North Carolina. No, he won it in 2016, 2020, and 2024. But every time I've gone to hit North Carolina on the touchable map, I hit Pennsylvania.
That's interesting. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, over the 107 days of this campaign. We have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny, and anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up. I will never give up the fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations, where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do. We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy, for the rule of law, for equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld. And we will continue to wage this fight in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger and seeing a neighbor, by always using our strength to lift people up, to fight for the dignity that all people deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work, but like I always say, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And the fight for our country is always worth it. It is always worth it. To the young people who are watching, it is, I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. People who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
Gesundheit. All right, so that was interesting. It was nice of her to give a shout out and thank Cardi B. I think that's what she meant when she was thanking the poll workers. Yeah, so exit stage left. I'm not sure why I thought maybe she said achoo at the end, but LD saying, why did she say a Jew?
I thought maybe she's saying a Jew, but you know,
a Jew.
Why wouldn't you say I bid you a Jew?
I bid you a Jew. A Jew. I bid all the Jews a Jew.
Oh yeah, I don't.
I bid all the dudes.
Maybe the teleprompter scrambled. Maybe she had a Cardi B moment at the end, and Doug wasn't there to bring her phone over with the notes.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually were to see that teleprompter malfunction, it was comical at the beginning. I kind of felt bad for her because they left her hanging out there, and I was like, you never leave a stripper on the stage without music, guys. Come on, give her the music. All right, so I was trying to find this video. Trump was watching the Kamala speech with Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, and Oliver Stone, I believe, was in the room. It's banned now. And I went to our trusty interweb and I did a search, right? This is the search thread. And you can see it's posted and written about all over the place, but it's banned all these places dependent on YouTube. So I was going to Rumble and Rumble said no bueno. And now I have to search Odyssey and these various other sites. But I find it interesting. Oh, that's a foreshadowing of Cardi B right there. But I found it interesting that they banned it because I thought it was really interesting insight about the guy who's about to be president again, how he operates. He was sitting there watching the speech, dictating his speech, like, you know, to the lady typing it all in. There was a whole bunch of interesting comments going on in the room. It was just like an interesting window into political power, which I thought was I don't know, shouldn't be censored, but it's censored on copyright grounds by Bent Pixels, whoever the Bent Pixel people are. So maybe we'll find out at some point. The other parts of the story, did you want to comment on that block before we get to the more?
I was just saying, I think I found it here.
Oh, you think you found it?
Yeah, I just threw it in the chat. I think that'll work.
Oh, dude, let's. LD, yeah, because the one I had slid LD was like a minute long. Do you have? Is that one longer than a minute?
It's like 10 minutes. Yeah, it's 10 minutes.
Yeah, the whole thing was like
27 seconds. Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's play
Perplexity,
this.
Perplexity.ai.
Yeah. All right, so let's play that at the beginning of the block, and then go to the Cardi B movie trailer with J-Lo.
Really, the only thing I was going to say out of all that is, like, I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. I hope you enjoyed all the festivities of not only the 2024 election, but the 2020 election, the 2016 election, because you're never going to see anything like this ever again, probably in our entire lives. The fanfare, the trolling, the craziness, the memes, the memes, the divisiveness, because you guys, can you imagine the strippers? Because 2028, it's going to be Harris and JD Vance. Like, I can't think of a more boring, devastatingly awful time. Just like, hopefully everybody by then will just be totally checked out of politics. Everyone's got their own gardens, their own businesses, and, you know, they're going to be like, I don't care. I can't think of anything I care about less than Vance and Harris. Right?
Do you remember that? Do you remember living life when, like in the pre 9/11 world, it was like, oh, Clinton did a thing with a cigar. That was the biggest thing we had to worry about back in the day, right? Yeah. I did not have sex with that woman, right? Yeah. He had a cigar proxy. Is the problem there, and he didn't pick up the dry cleaning bill. See, Linda Tripp about that. Anyway, it was the 90s were great, except for, you know, all the grunge stars dying, except the ones who lived to tell about it. Most things were great back then. Then it's all of a sudden like there was an immense freedom on airplanes back then too. I don't even want to tell you guys about it, because if you don't remember it, then you don't want to hear about it and try to fly today. But there was a time when we didn't have to on bended knee is no way to be free. When you're taking off your shoes and showing people your junk to get on a plane, it's like a fancy bus. It's a flying bus. Would you show the Greyhound people your nuts to get on a Greyhound bus? Just asking for a friend, because people do these types of things to get on the planes these days. So anyway, I'm proud of my nuts, by the way. So I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I selectively share.
You could do a lot more damage hijacking a bus, probably, in the grand scheme of things. Than,
Yeah, I'm just, people are so easily, they did it because of the terrorists, but the terrorists who hate us for our freedom, they were in this country and the UK and Israel. All right, NATO. There's a lot of people involved. It wasn't the guys with the box cutters, is what I'm saying. And until you understand that level of history, you'll never understand what happened in this election. And you're probably really confused about how the world works. But I've laid out the past 15, 16 years, education that's non-contradictory. You could listen to the Peace Revolution podcast or the 9/11 Synchronicity podcast. Take yourself away from today's political events and just go study some history. And then maybe you'll realize, like, nothing's changed. They're still doing the thing. The deep state's still a thing. The New World Order is still a thing, apparently, even though Elon was like jerking people's chains the other day with some tweet about Novus Ordo Seclorum.
Yeah. The box cutter is just a euphemism for like demolition charges and missiles and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this spicy media block coming up, we've got the behind the scenes at the Trump meeting. And I just thought that's interesting insight for the time capsule. Then we will go to the reason that Cardi B was on the stage with Kamala is because she is like a Nobel Prize winner of the stripper world and deserves to be recognized. I thought it was just libertarians who supported sex workers so vehemently, but Cardi B was supported a whole lot by Kamala. And then Tim Dillon. Election analysis and turning yourself in. He's going to make some comments on the celebrities that were supporting the Kamala campaign and why it was turning out to be ironic. Then we'll get to Washington Examiner, how Kamala Harris plowed through $1 billion. Huh, it's a lot of money. Wonder if those donors are wondering where their money went, just like American taxpayers have been wondering where the taxpayer money to Ukraine went. Or to Iraq back in the day. It's a long history of lost money. And then George Clooney quits politics forever after Kamala Harris humiliated by Donald Trump, apparently, allegedly. But let's get into the block and find out for ourselves what happened.
Is she crazy?
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Too many thank yous. It's about 20. There must be 35.
Traveling from India to California with an unshakable dream to be the scientist.
How many people are watching?
Can we tell how many, Dan? How many people are watching?
She's talking about how great San Francisco was before she destroyed it. A lot of talk about childhood. We've got to get to the border, inflation, and crime.
He's not proposing a single policy, not one policy. Harris's biography won't lower your prices at the grocery store or at the pub.
Out there putting veterans out on the street, so
33,000 homeless veterans. Got you. Okay, say these out. The things of which she complains. The things of which she complains.
In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man.
Oh. You hear that, Phil?
But the consequences.
It's great, right?
But the consequences.
Ready? These prosecutions were all started by her and Biden against their political opponents. Me. Get that out right away.
We have caravans heading to the border, people showing up to the border with Biden-Harris t-shirts. Everything we have of people swarming the border.
She paid bail for rioters in the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
She paid and raised bail. She paid bail to get the violent rioters in Minnesota out of jail.
Tim wants let Minnesota burn. Kamala Harris burned down the walls, lit the matches.
Put it in there. Put it right in with the stuff, right?
With that post,
He would use the immense power.
You could do it either that or separate.
say more lies, lying about the project
against Project 25, which she knows, and so do all Democrats, that I have absolutely nothing to do with.
She says we all know what a second term will look like. We can say yes. No inflation, secure borders, the best economy in the history of the world, and peace.
She said chart a new way forward. Turning a new way.
Chart a new way forward.
She's done nothing but harm.
I think we have a graphic about black earnings being down 6%. If we haven't already hit that, let's hit that one.
She's talking about the middle class, but she's the one that broke the middle class and made it unsafe.
She wants to give free Social Security and Medicare to illegals, bankrupting the system. Kamala Harris said the walls are extremists on abortion and abortions up to the moment of even after birth.
What would you say to a woman in Mississippi who's having to carry a child to term that has died in the fetus or has a serious fetal abnormality? That's how it will come at you in the debate. But it'll be someone in a red state enduring that.
We have the exceptions.
Right, that's the right answer.
Democrats are the extremists.
Democrats, Republicans, liberals and conservatives wanted Roe v. Wade terminated and brought back to the states. 4 stories that she is making up that I've never even heard of.
I heard her say contraception, and I heard her say birth control.
Do not limit access to birth control or IVF. That is a lie.
Well, we trust women.
I trust women also.
To restore reproductive freedom.
And I will keep women safe.
Of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
She won't, because the millions pouring into the invasion of our country at her open border are destroying the lives of women and the families of African Americans and Hispanics.
That bill that legalizes illegal immigration.
And is a total disaster, weak and ineffective. Close the border. She just called to give all illegals citizenship. Say goodbye to the USA.
Trump, on the other hand, threatened to abandon NATO.
NATO wasn't paying their bills. I saved NATO. She hates Israel. You got it, Dan?
How many troops have you put out there?
About 40. She's complaining.
Has she said anything on China?
Has she mentioned fracking?
Kamala Harris is a threat to democracy.
She will take us into World War III and nuclear war.
She will take us into a nuclear World War III.
Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Oh, wow. She didn't mention China. She didn't mention fracking. She didn't mention energy. She didn't mention Russia and Ukraine, right?
50 to 60 million people in poverty in the United States right now, under their watch. They put these people in poverty. They're doing nothing about it, not even talking about it. Some of these people can't even eat.
There's 60 million people in poverty in the United States right now.
Under their watch.
And she doesn't even talk about that.
So after he and Martha start talking, call in after like a minute or two after Brett and Martha start going.
I want to use a hard line. Much better. Hard line is so much better.
Phone's on quiet. Make sure phone's on quiet.
Turn your phones
Sir,
off.
they're ready for you in 1 minute.
Joining us now by phone, the 45th President of the United States, former President Donald Trump. Mr. President, thank you for joining us. You were truth socialing along this speech. What is your first reaction to it real time tonight?
Well, the biggest reaction is why didn't she do the things that she's complaining about? All of these things that she talked about, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do everything. But she didn't do any of it. She could have done it 3.5 years ago. She could do it tonight by leaving the auditorium and going to Washington, D.C. and closing the border. She doesn't need a bill. I didn't have a bill. I closed the border. There was a lot of complaining. She's raising taxes. She's going to give a tax increase. She didn't talk about any of that. What they're going to do is pick up and move to another country, like the pharmaceutical industry or the immigration information. It's very simple. The bill was horrible.
We're doing very well in the polls. We're leading in most of the polls. In the swing states, we're leading in almost every one of them.
As far as RFK, I've had a great relationship with him over the years.
Look, he was treated very unfairly
by the Democrats.
In the end, the Democrats did the same thing to Joe Biden.
They threw Joe Biden
out of the party.
And that's why we saw a different night tonight.
Mr. President, thank you so
very
much
sir.
for the time.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think I just nullified the whole fucking speech. I think I just nullified.
Good job.
Okay, here we have, that must be, who is it? No, Greg. How are you, Greg? Oh boy, I just did one, I just did one on Fox. Did you see it? I don't know if I can handle another one, man. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. Look, you're my friend, you're great, but it's Greg Kelly. Say it again, Greg. Jason Miller is here. He wanted me to stay on the border.
I don't think we should be doing it. It's very dangerous. They want me to do an interview. We have three. They're saying it's very dangerous. They were just telling me you shouldn't be standing in here. Should I be doing an interview here?
It's safe where they have positions.
Well, I'm not asking you. I'm asking these guys.
He didn't care how safe it was. He wanted me to finish up 3 interviews. I said, Jason, I've been told by Secret Service this is very dangerous. Wasn't that good?
If those are the points you level in the debate, it will be very, very effective.
Yes.
Well, that's what I thought. That's the way I am. That's the way I thought. But, debates are tricky. You might not be in the right mood. We have fake anchors on ABC. Among the worst, you have George Slobodanopoulos, sort of controls it over there. Get him on the hard line, man.
Okay.
Your voice is much better on a hard line. I didn't realize it. I did Sean Hannity 2 months ago on a hard line. It was like, I always hated my voice when I do this one. I'm ready. Thank you, Antonio. I just watched it. Very non-specific. Everybody knows all of my policies. Thank you both very much. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you.
Nice job.
Great job. I was at the border at 7 in the morning. He wanted me taken out. Sir, one more interview. Sir, you can't stand here any longer. I mean, essentially, it's debate prep, what we're doing, right? Wouldn't you say?
That was good. That was good.
Go home, everybody.
Okay. Listen.
Front hook, ankle hook, knee hook. From here, you can do the carousel. Just switch and wrap.
Minus 40% is 160.
I just want to take care of my grandma, maybe go shopping every once in a while.
When I was a kid, I always wanted to work with animals. I was close.
These Wall Street guys, you see what they did to this country? They stole from everybody. Hardworking people lost everything. And not one of these douchebags went to jail.
The game is rigged, and it does not reward people who play by the rules.
It's like robbing a bank, except you get the keys. Are you in?
I gotta.
These are my coworkers.
Jobs, please.
What if somebody calls the cops?
And says what? I spent $5,000 at a strip club. Send help.
Damn. We're a family now. Damn. A family with money.
And when would you say that things got out of control?
Pass the mirror. Please help. This is my husband.
Like a Tommy gun roll, yeah, wouldn't want no bitch, mommy some cray. I like my niggas birth like do say he gonna eat this like soup.
So the guy went back 3 more times. Guess he must have liked it.
Hammer time. I was born to flex. Diamonds on my neck. I like boarding jets. I like more than sex. But nothing in this world. I like more than checks.
We didn't do anything wrong. Tony wouldn't let this happen. I'm gonna text him.
Who gave her her phone back?
Jump it down, back it up. Ooh, hey, make that too, hey.
Not 1 or 2 degrees of separation away
from human trafficking, apparently. So you got Oprah up there, and she's saying, if you don't vote, if you don't do, you have Beyonce, you have Taylor Swift, by the way, who's like the biggest celebrity on earth. Taylor Swift is probably one of the most famous, recognizable people on earth. She's texted this phone because it used to be owned by someone named Janina, who was a donor, I guess. Maybe not a big donor, but somebody who did. So Taylor Swift has texted me about 13,000 times about Kamala Harris. Taylor Swift is the biggest celebrity endorsement any politician can get. It didn't work. No one cared. Didn't matter. No one gave a shit. No one gave a shit about Oprah. Nobody cared about George Clooney. Nobody cared about any of these people. Nobody cared about any of these people because people are sick of it. People are sick of it. They know George Clooney doesn't get them. How stupid would you have to be to think that George Clooney had your best interest at heart when you're waiting to get discounted food from the church? Is that comforting when you're on a line to get discounted food from the church? Who Taylor Swift, a trillionaire, thinks you should vote for? Do you think, and all these people are like, well, the women are going to come out because of abortion. Apparently not. Apparently, a more salient issue is food. Who can afford food? That's apparently a more salient issue than abortion. But they're imagining that these women with children and a husband who are waiting in line at a food bank are getting a text from Taylor Swift, and these women go, God, I want to feed my kids, but what I really want to do right now is have an abortion. I just want to have an abortion. I'm hungry. Mommy, we're hungry. Shut up. I want to have an abortion. I've been in traffic for a half hour. Mommy, we're hungry. Why are the interest rates so high? I imagine they're very smart, the kids. Why are the rates so high? Shut up. Your mother just got a text from Taylor Swift, and Taylor made a good point. And now I'm going down to the clinic. I want an abortion. That's all I care about is abortion. I want an abortion. Mommy, we just want waffles. Waffles are $40, but an abortion is free. expressvpn.com/Tim Dillon. It's a great way to support this show. You get 3 months free. 3 extra months free. expressvpn.com/Tim Dillon. 3 extra months free. expressvpn.com/Tim Dillon. I use it. My mother used it up until her death. CB Distillery. Let me guess. Your medicine cabinet is crammed with stuff.
Vice President Kamala Harris had raised over $1 billion ahead of Election Day. This didn't stop President-elect Donald Trump from cinching office with less cash spent. The Harris campaign and its affiliated committees dropped more than $654 million on advertising from July 22nd to Election Day, nearly double the Trump campaign. The Harris campaign declined to comment on its finances. A fuller portrait will be public after the election, as the Federal Election Commission mandates post-general election reports for candidates within 30 days. In mid-October, the Harris campaign disclosed that it had spent over $880 million this election, almost $526 million greater than the roughly $354 million that the Trump campaign had disclosed. Much of the Harris campaign spending was allocated for digital media advertising, polling, and travel from state to state, including to a private jet company called Advanced Aviation.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun. I did not know that. If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes, I hear that.
Millions were paid to marketing agencies, organizing appearances with celebrities like Oprah and comedian Trevor Noah. The Harris campaign spent 6 figures building the set for her Call Her Daddy podcast appearance.
Daddy gang, to put it in our TikTok terms, I have seen girls on the street walk up to men and be like, do you know where a tampon goes? Do you know how many tampons we use? Do you even know how, do you know what a X or Y or Z is of a part of our, and they don't know the answer.
Payroll and the taxes that accompanied it accounted for $56.6 million of the Harris campaign spending. In comparison, the Trump campaign reported spending $9 million on payroll, employing far less staff. One Trump campaign advisor said, quote, "Money can't buy you love or a good candidate."
Fire me.
I regret to inform you that your position at this company is no longer available.
I'm fired.
Yes, you're fired.
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. We're looking for people to thank for this, the most historic landslide election result in modern American history, where President Trump, against all odds and the greatest comeback story ever, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote by 5 million votes, and won 312 electoral college votes, again in a sweeping landslide against Kamala Harris. Ladies and gentlemen, as we look through the names of people to thank for this glorious result, we can't help ourselves but thank George Clooney. George Clooney, the man who promised you that President Trump would never be president.
Not going to be a President Donald Trump.
Yes. Sorry about that one, George. Now there's 2-time President Donald Trump. But you see, let's go back in time, just a few months ago, where George Clooney was throwing fundraisers for a lobotomized, corpse-like Joe Biden in Hollywood. You know, the women always know. Look at the way that Julia Roberts is holding Joe Biden's arm here, right? It's always the tell right there. Women know. They just have that sensibility about them. Joe Biden, of course, wasn't with it at this fundraiser. They were trying to push him out. And who was the guy who actually orchestrated all of it? It was Barack Obama, backstabbing his own vice president in a Machiavellian move, using George Clooney to write this op-ed, which was kind of the nail in the coffin for Joe Biden. This in the New York Times. George Clooney, just days after taking this photo, writes this: "I love Joe Biden, but we need a new nominee." With friends like these, who needs friends, right? Yeah. You want a real friend in D.C., get a dog. Look at this. This is a battle that he cannot fight because it's a battle against time. None of us can. It's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden that I was with 3 weeks ago at a fundraiser was not the big effing deal Joe Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate. A mouth-breathing man, clearly incapable of independent thought, or completing a sentence. So, ladies and gentlemen, George Clooney backstabbed publicly Joe Biden and then brought us Kamala Harris. George Clooney then fundraised for Kamala Harris, of course, at the orders of his bestie, Barack Obama. What a sick monster this dude is. Donald Trump has destroyed the Obama legacy, thank God, but they had a little extra damage to do. Look at this photo. So sad. It's like a hostage photo, truly. Kamala Harris, then, they replaced Joe Biden with a drunk, right? Well, someone who's clearly less capable than Joe Biden. This is how great the plan was.
We debate it out. Have good, vigorous debates. Have a good fight over policy.
Kamala Harris.
Good for democracy.
So this is what they replaced Joe Biden with, right? This is what they found. Kamala Harris, by the way, drinking her feelings away, and the only post since losing to Donald Trump with a giant glass of wine. They couldn't even look at the size. Look at the size of that pour. Yeah, Kamala Harris in sweatpants with her hair in a greasy top knot with a giant glass of wine. Kind of exactly how I thought it'd be going. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris, as she slugs glasses of wine, sitting there wondering what the hell happened. So is George Clooney. We just want to say thanks, George, for this election result. You really brought us here. Well, now George Clooney is saying, I'm effing done. It's incredible. George Clooney is saying, I'm finished. George Clooney is back, taking a step back from politics after being made a scapegoat for Kamala Harris's loss. George Clooney feels like he's being used as a scapegoat, a furious blame game over who could have cost Kamala Harris the election, and now is taking a step back from politics. The Hollywood star, 63, threw his support behind Kamala Harris after penning a blistering op-ed on why Joe Biden would cost Democrats the win if they didn't abandon his campaign. But it still wasn't enough to prevent a historic Donald Trump victory. Internal numbers showed that Donald Trump would have won 400 electoral votes had Joe Biden stayed in the race. So, again, this was probably just to save face. Clooney has since been criticized by Democrats for his influence during the election, some claiming Harris's loss was his fault. The Oscar winner is disheartened by the backlash, with insiders claiming that he did not immediately endorse Harris because he felt the Democrats should have taken a step back and weighed their options. George felt that the backlash he is getting for Kamala losing is not warranted, source told the Daily Mail. He thinks it's completely unfair to try and make him the scapegoat for her loss. It's amazing how celebrities are blaming each other now for all this. He has backed the Democrat Party and invested so much time and money into them. He's going to take a step back for now. He feels disheartened. When he wrote his op-ed, George did not say Biden is not fit to be president. Choose Kamala. Democrats jumped in with Kamala. George believes that they should have maybe had like a, I don't know, open primary or something. That would have been really entertaining. I would have been for that. But boy, do I ever like this result. Thank you, George. Trump secured his comeback victory to the White House. George Clooney, of course, being part of it. Why are people like him involved in politics in the first place? By the way, all of your movies suck. Here's George Clooney's Rotten Tomatoes. You can see here over the last 20 years, a lot more rotten than there were fresh. All these movies, you've never even heard of any of these movies. George Clooney's career is completely washed up. His most recent film, Wolf's dreadful, laugh-free slog fest tests limits of what George Clooney's star power can salvage. Yeah. Let's go ahead and check that on Rotten Tomatoes. Wolves. Oh, okay. It looks like they paid for enough to make it for 67 versus 51% audience score. That's still a disaster for George Clooney. What a mess. Clooney is a clown. Everybody destroying George Clooney now. Clooney, his $200 million film, of course, lost a ton of money. Clooney now is, well, not so tough. Remember, George Clooney went on late night TV to talk smack to Donald Trump and say that Donald Trump needs to leave politics forever. The same guy that said Donald Trump will never be president.
Yeah. Trump is a big fan of yours. I don't know if you've seen this, but he posted in July. So now fake movie actor George Clooney.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that movies are fake, does he?
I don't think so.
Who never
Hannibal
came close to making a great movie is getting into the act. He's turned on Crooked Joe like the rats they both are. What does Clooney know about anything, says the host of Celebrity Apprentice. Clooney should get out of politics and go back to television. Movies never really work for him.
All right, I will if he does.
All the lobotomized seals clapping. It's funny because Donald Trump actually got the last laugh here. When Joe Biden dropped out, Donald Trump used a George Clooney meme template to troll him.
So although I wish I were here with better news, the fact is that you and I are sitting here today because this will be your last week of employment. This is not an assessment of your productivity. You gotta try not to take this personally.
Well, I just had a bad night.
Donald Trump said in radio interviews that George Clooney is a backstabber and a disloyal third-rate actor. Fact check, true. George Clooney, F politics, I'm out. Kamala Harris broke everything. Has anyone seen George Clooney? The best man to bring it all home, Tim Dillon, with a George Clooney rant on his channel. Tim Dillon's just has a great channel. Everyone should go follow it. Crashing on Hollywood celebrities for Kamala, saying they're all frauds and they are totally disconnected from the American people. We could not agree more. Tim Dillon, take it away.
Taylor Swift is the biggest celebrity endorsement any politician can get. It didn't work. No one cared. Didn't matter.
Good bullet.
No one gave a shit. No one gave.
All right. So miscalculations are abundant on the left side of the political spectrum. What did you think of that block, Scott?
Yeah, fascinating stuff. I mean, obviously, there's no honor amongst these scoundrels, which is really apparent in all of that. That was really interesting to see the behind the scenes of Trump doing all that. That's interesting. Very interesting how that whole dynamic works. How he has like a stenographer that kind of he dictates to, and she was typing it into like a Word document to spell check and all that. Like that was just kind of cool to see behind the scenes how power operates at that level. It's very interesting. But
you also got to see behind the scenes of how Cardi B operates.
Yes. Oh my God. That's kind of an older movie, isn't it? That's not,
probably 10 years ago.
Okay, that's
she
right,
was
that's
in
right.
there. Cardi B, who was
Okay.
reading the thing from the phone
Yeah.
earlier tonight. If you guys are paying attention, she was in the trailer.
Yep, that's
for the
interesting.
movie
Now,
made about her, starring J-Lo, who's infamously involved with the Diddy case right now.
Yep.
Which is probably going to be disclosed to the public thanks to the new regime in power.
Yep. Now, the Clooney thing reminds me of something that came up earlier this year. There was a controversy that popped up where Clooney, apparently his foundation, the Clooney Foundation for Justice. Did you hear about this, Kate, the whole situation?
No, but he's married to that lawyer, the Italian lawyer.
Amal Clooney.
Yeah.
So it's an organization that they have together, and it's like an international, like civil rights type of organization. And there was earlier in the year, it was around May 24, where they were embroiled in some controversy because they were trying to petition the ICC to arrest Russian journalists that were reporting positively about Russia in light of the Ukrainian war. This controversy, like, hey, bro, like we value freedom, First Amendment, freedom of the press here in the United States. So how dare you go around trying to arrest journalists internationally? So I guess the Clooney Foundation issued a statement saying, whoa, hold on. Now, we weren't trying to do that. Like, it was a misunderstanding. Someone from our organization was misquoted. So that was their retort. But according to their website, the Clooney Foundation for Justice, their mission statement includes things such as prosecutions against those who commit mass atrocities and represent survivors in court. So they're out there trying to prosecute those who commit mass atrocities internationally and represent the survivors in court. So I don't know. There might be some mass atrocities going on around here. They might want to. That wouldn't be conducive to Clooney's overall worldview, I would say. So
Clooney was trying to fashion himself as the remake of Frank Sinatra, who famously helped JFK win the 1960 election. That's why Clooney started in Ocean's 11. The original had Frank Sinatra, and Clooney has his own rat pack of wolves. That's the new movie, right? That's part of his rat pack, that dude. The other guy that used to be married to the MK chick. John Voight's daughter. Angelina Jolie.
Yep.
Yeah. So, like, he was trying to remake himself, trying to be a political kingmaker type situation, but I'd say he overplayed his hand, to use a little poker euphemism. I don't think he will be buying much George Clooney anymore. It's like his way of, like when something's expired, you can smell it. That's what he's demonstrating right now.
Yeah.
Past his best buy date.
Yeah, and they're not allowed to use Rat Pack anymore. That's very anti-Semitic, as we learned earlier. So.
Yeah, they can't be doing that. Although it was coined by Lauren Bacall, who was with Bogart at that time. Bogart was the original Rat Pack leader, and they were all passed out after some night of partying. And she said, "You look like a pack of rats," because they're all over the couches and the chairs and whatever, just like a bunch of dudes like in their suits or whatever. Sinatra took that over after they pushed Bogey out to sea, like they did to Biden, kind of. Yeah. All right, African Queen's a damn good movie, though. You should go watch it. All right, that's early, like green screen compositing back in the day, so you should really check out that movie. All right, in this next chunk of videos, we have this question. Now, I found it interesting that Republican side noticed this first. They're like, where's all the extra votes from 2020? Why aren't Democrats showing up like they did? Everybody was like, what's going on? And what happened in 2020, I think, caught the Republicans off guard. And this time Trump had like lawyers and all sorts of people in all those areas ready to like file paperwork with courts, and it wasn't being caught off guard, right? So I really think like other than them preventing people from voting, all that stuff about extra boxes of votes and mail-in votes, non-issue this time. Russia, non-issue this time. All the things that happened last time in the 2020 election that were like big deals, they all magically went away, as if the deep state just changed its strategy on how to deal with the opponent. And they thought bringing out Tiny Mustache Man's name like 1,000 times in the last week would do it. They really did. They're like, we'll just call him Hitler, because nobody wants to be associated with Hitler. And therefore, in their losing state, they think, wow, 75% of people identify with Hitler. That's not true. That's just them carrying their illusion forward into a land where reality will no longer tolerate it. So We are going to have to look into these missing votes. And the Democrats were like, I saw some of the questioning on their side. Like, hey, what's going on here? And they don't realize, because they probably think the guy from his basement got 81 million votes legit. Whereas Trump's side had always said, there's something funky going on here. And then the left said, we know we committed the crime. Here it is in Time magazine, but we're going to prevent you from talking about it for 4 years. And they had the whole time. They had 4 years to do what they wanted. And they prosecuted Trump's family members. They went after everybody in his organization, including the guy who's going to be in charge of CIA right now. Kash Patel was one of the first people they went after. We have his clip coming up, but it's a couple blocks away. We got to work to get there. And to work to get there, we're going to have to ask, where did these votes go? And then all of a sudden, when Trump's elected, world leaders start calling for peace. It's a magical thing that never happened in the Biden-Harris administration whatsoever. All they did is encroach. Are they going to do anything? Nope. They're busy with a whole bunch of rainbow stuff going on in their schools. All right, keep encroach. Take more from America. And now they know the business guy's coming back. And once he's had his McDonald's for the day, he's pretty damn focused after a few Diet Cokes. All right, so let's go to these clips and hope the McDonald's has good quality control.
I don't even know what I'm going to call this video. I have no idea what I'm going to make the thumbnail. All I know is that the rats are running for the hills. And this post right here that you are seeing on my screen is, so I read this and my hair stood on end, where I was like, let's go. Now, let me start by reading you something that RFK posted. Okay, you ready for this? The FDA's war on public health is about to end. This includes its aggressive suppression of psychedelics, peptides, stem cells, raw milk, hyperbaric therapies, chelating compounds, vitamins, clean foods, sunshine, exercise, nutraceuticals, and anything else that advances human health that can't be patented by pharma. If you work for the FDA and are part of this corrupt system, I have 2 messages for you. 1, preserve your records. 2, pack your bags. Let's go. Okay, let's go. And the one we're going to start with is even better than that. And that's pretty bananas. Okay, so we are also going to look at some statistics related to this election versus 2020 that are going to blow your mind. And here's the deal. Someone needs to go to jail. Okay, they need to go to jail or come up with an explanation for the figures that we're going to go over. Okay. Because the idea that everybody was the gaslighting that we dealt with for the last 4 years, well, that's over. We're talking cold, hard data. And if you don't have an explanation for it, then we need to start pointing at people who facilitated what we're talking about. Okay? So that is what we're going to do. Now, do you want your own pair of these shoes for free? Let me tell you how that can happen. Now, this feels like the right video to tell you about Sheath Underwear, the official sponsor of the UFC. Completely up to you. SheathUnderwear.com. Okay, so let's jump right into this thing, and we're going to start right here. This is exactly what we're talking about, and then we're going to get into the specific data that backs this up that someone needs to answer for. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you. What advantage is there in knowing your enemy's plans ahead of time? The enemy had a plan, but their playbook is old and stale. It's completely predictable. Plan A. Flood the swing states with fraudulent voter registrations, cause chaos at Republican voting centers, slow down the count on election night, and drag out the results. Then bring in large amounts of fake ballots where needed and count for days until you have the required results. What happened? Fraudulent registrations were exposed in courtrooms before the election, and so were bloated voting rolls of illegals and dead people. Courts demanded those be removed before the election. Then the courts ruled that Election Day is Election Day and outlawed any ballots being counted that weren't received by Election Day. Checkmate. Okay? Plan B. Drag out the counts and announcement of results. Then, when it looks like Trump will win, launch riots and protests. Have the media question the results and feed the flames of the rioters. Launch lawsuits in all the swing states to deny certification and question the results. What happened? Too big to rig. It blindsided them. They were completely shocked. The only way Plan B was ever going to work was if it was a close race. It wasn't. It was a blowout, a red wave tsunami. Kamala didn't win a single county. She underperformed Biden in every possible way, while Trump outperformed his 2020 numbers everywhere. A blowout public mandate gave them no cover for their planned chaos. It would only bring quicker justice. I don't believe they expected this at all, which is why nothing happened. They don't know what to do now because they are facing the fact that none of their propaganda and gaslighting has worked. Plan C. Is it try to prevent certification, create their own January 6th moment? Answer, no. Too big to rig has also destroyed any cover for that plan too. Without a close election, it will look like exactly what it would be. A coup, an insurrection that would trigger instant military action and military justice. My friends, I think Plan C is now every man for himself. Try to cut a deal, keep your head down, and try to weather the incoming storm. TikTok. Dude, I am telling you right now, if you read that and that does not ring true to you, then I don't know what what you're watching, because the only other scenario is a much worse one than that, okay? Which would be that they intentionally let him win because they want to do something, like take the bottom out from the country completely and then blame it on him. That's the only other scenario that would make any sense. Why else, but why would you pull Biden? You know what I mean? If you want to let him win, just keep Biden in there. Right? Why pull him out and then give him Kamala that he's going to lose to, or he's going to win? So here's the deal, okay? Here's the deal. Now, I could read all of this stuff where people go into like really, really kind of specific scenarios that would be whatever. But here's another thing to look at, okay? Let's look at this, okay? Actually, you know what? I take that back. We're going to come to that in a second. First, look at this. All right, take a look at these numbers. So here you go. Okay. So in 2004, John Kerry gets 59 million votes. 2008, Obama got 69.5 million votes. Okay. I voted for Obama in 2008, and it was, everyone, it was the exact same as it was for Trump, except Obama, you knew it was a movement. He was getting elected, and it was a matter of everyone went out. That was the first election I voted in. Okay. Now, well, then I was younger, but 2012, 66 million for Obama. 2016, Clinton, 65.9, exactly the same as Obama in the second election. 2020, 81.3 million votes. Okay. 81.3 million votes. 2024 Harris, 66.4. So basically, since 2008, you have had nearly the exact same number of people who come out to vote in the popular vote on the left, except for somehow in 2020, it jumped up to 81.3 million. And then now, after, we saw what happened in 2020, and in 2024, everyone knew what was coming, got in front of it. I assume, listen, dude, I'm not even going to pretend to understand all the things that were going on. I still thought they were going to rig it, to be honest. That's what I thought was going to happen. But apparently, the Republicans were on top of it in advance. They knew what they had done last time. I'm just going to be honest. I thought that they were in the software. That's what I thought, right? That's what I thought. I am so happy to have been wrong, dude. Now, what do I know? I don't know anything. You know what I mean? I'm reading things that sound very, very, solid. But okay, so this is the first thing to look at, right? So these numbers, explain these to me. You know what I mean? Explain exactly how these numbers can be explained, okay? Oh, and by the way, yes, I did tag Destiny, and I did that specifically because he posted this. He said, here you go. He said, given the Dems turned out some 15 million fewer voters, I can't wait to see all the posts from conservatives admitting they were completely wrong about the deep state and rampant voter fraud. How on earth would 15 million less prove that there wasn't rampant voter fraud? As you can see per this graphic, in what universe? I don't understand. Run me through the logic there, because it proves the exact opposite. Okay, proves the exact opposite. Now let's go ahead and look at at something else. Okay. So here's that. You just saw that graphic. Okay. Now, how about this? So what are we looking at over here? What's this? Okay. So the map above on the top is the map that details voter ID requirements by state. Okay. So the blue one is photo ID required. The blue one is photo ID required, and the gray is no ID required. Do you guys notice any correlation between the no ID and the ones that went blue? Anybody see any correlation there? Seems pretty similar, looks pretty similar from the gray to the blue. Looks like basically all the states that don't require ID have gone blue. Now, of course, that could be because only Democrats that could not explain that, like that policy, if you gave them 100 years, since obviously it is going to give you rampant ability to cheat, but nonetheless, maybe it's just because Democrat, it's like only a full Democrat supermajority could pass an idiotic law like that. But it seems like a pretty notable thing, right? You know what I mean? No ID required. Those are the ones that went blue. The only ones, except for, So Colorado.
Republicans are going to keep the House miraculously. And so now the American people are going to say, reflect our priorities in governance. No more silent majority. Reflect our priorities. Can we please get some voter ID? Please. We're starving over here. Can we please get some voter ID? Congressman, this is the most popular opinion of the United States of America that is on the right. Voter ID. 85% of the country wants it.
Yes.
Please, may I have some more?
So this is what we need to do. First of all, the SAVE Act needs to be passed immediately. We want free and fair election. Shout out to Lara Trump and Michael Watley for the way that they handled this election by making sure that we had a free and fair election, and we made sure that there was no funding business and no cheating. This was such a decisive victory. And the fact that this was the most expensive race in the history of this country, they outspent us by $1 billion. And President Trump just won the popular vote. He got 312 electoral college votes. Look at that map. The country is now red, and you have nothing to say about it, even though he outperformed her by 5 million points. And you're telling me that Joe Biden got 81 million votes 4 years ago? So the first thing that we need to do is ensure that in perpetuity we have free and fair elections. And this is the beginning of that. I can respect losing as long as we lose fair and square. And what we have seen in the dichotomy of the last 4 years to electoral map now, how about we just keep this going? How about we keep up the good work? How about we allow people to walk into that booth, show their ID, prove who they are, and then move on? And I'll tell you this too, Benny, these people that play identity politics also assume that people of color and black people are stupid, as if we can't get a government ID to vote. And the reason why they do this is because they are playing black people to continue to vote for them because they want illegals to vote in this country. So first of all, let's clean up our voter rolls. Let's be responsible. I have to have an ID to go buy some milk for my family. So to vote is a much higher standard. Let's assume that people are responsible enough to attain a government issued ID. And let's talk about common sense, fair voting laws. And then lastly, before 10 o'clock, states like Florida and North Carolina and Wisconsin, they counted their votes. It was over. We have Elon Musk bringing back rockets from space. And you mean to tell me that we can't figure out how to count votes in one day? They are still counting votes in Arizona. They're still counting votes in Nevada. How is this possible? Count the votes, show your ID, and by midnight, this should be over across the country. Let's follow the example of Florida and states like that have done this the right way, and every single state need to adopt those kinds of policies. We can count in this country. Free and fair elections, have an ID, and make sure that you are who you say you are when you vote for the leadership of the greatest country in the world.
Congressman, you brought up a great point. And let's play a game here. Let's 100% believe the vote count in 2020. All right, libs, hear me out. Okay. I believe you. Joe Biden got 82 million votes.
Yep.
I believe you. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna play this game. We'll play your game, Lib.
Oh, this pesky math. Look at this math.
Where the hell did they go? Exactly. Somebody explain that to me.
Where'd they go?
Here's your votes this election. It's only 4 years. Where'd they go? So clearly what you're admitting here is that this is the single greatest political failure in American history, where nigh on 20 million people decided not to vote for you in the time span of 20 years. Can somebody explain that to me?
After we got outspent by an additional $1 billion, this was the most expensive race in the history of this country. They were villainizing us. This is actually probably the most aware the American public has been about voting a couple of days ago. And you're telling me that 20 million people just evaporated? They just didn't show up? That's the question that we have got to ask. Where did they go? And President Trump just got 74 million votes. That's the highest count that a sitting president has ever gotten in the history of this country. Let's put that in perspective. And also, I'm going to tell you this about 2020. There were roughly 168 million registered voters. And roughly 157 million people voted. That's a 93.4% voter participation rate. That's better than Barack Obama in 2008. You're going to tell me that Joe Biden was more popular than Barack Obama in 2008? I don't buy that. I don't believe you. And we have got to do a full autopsy as to what happened in 2020 because it just smells fishy, Benny.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, listen, either way, whatever way you cut it, Democrats are going to have to admit some type of catastrophic failure because the numbers don't add up. The math doesn't work.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, somebody explain it. Either way, I'm so deeply thankful for this result. I really hope that we get some answers. More answers here, Congressman, something that is very exciting that broke literally seconds ago. Here we go. Jack Smith has filed a motion to vacate all of his deadlines for Trump's criminal charges, the first step in dropping all criminal charges. Now, the House Oversight Committee, and I know you're very close with Comer and very close with Jordan, are looking at Jack Smith with a microscope. Talk me through the lawfare against Donald Trump.
Everybody come see us on tour. We'll be in Columbus, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So you know this guy, this maniac from the WEF?
Oh, he's the worst.
So listen to what he said about...
Is he in the original vampire movie?
That is Nosferatu. Nosferatu. So Nosferatu says this about Donald Trump. Here we go.
You can't say that Trump might be elected again. Sure.
I think it's very likely. And if it happens, it is likely to be the kind of like the death blow to what remains of the global order.
Yay!
Wow.
Out of the mouths of babes.
That guy needs a...
Boy, you didn't need to give America another reason to vote for him, asshole. So guess what? Guess what happened? Vladimir Putin declared the death of the New World Order just 2 days after the election results and a day after Elon Musk's cryptic Novus Ordo Seclorum tweet. Putin says the New World Order is a thing of the past. The moment of truth is approaching, and he backs Donald Trump's foreign policy, emphasizing a stance that avoids the use of force. The global order is dead. But look at this. Just in, Russian President Putin confirms his readiness to begin negotiations with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump.
Have you ever noticed how Trump sits when he's facing cameras in a seated position?
What's that?
Look, he always sits like that.
Yeah. Donald Trump?
With his diamond over his balls. That is... Actually, I don't know if he does it subconsciously, but it's a well-known sort of...
Oh, wow, look at that. It's like he's making his balls look like a heart.
Yeah, well, he's emphasizing his genitalia.
It works. So here... Here's President Putin. He takes Donald Trump's plan to end the war with Ukraine very seriously, and Russia supports it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Here it comes. Is it going to play?
You know, the fact that Mr. Trump, as a presidential candidate, says that he's ready and wants to stop the war in Ukraine, we take that very seriously.
Okay, but not as serious as the family that just bought a house in Poland. I'll tell you that. Come on. I don't know what Trump has planned, but okay. So. Guess what else happened? You might like this, Roseanne. Hamas calls for immediate end to the war after Trump election win.
Good.
Look at that. Look at that.
That's good.
So they're willing to work with your boy. Isn't that nice? Here's some more fuckers you don't like.
Oh.
These are this is from the Houthis in Yemen. They said our operation in international waters were purely defensive, and we announced their final cessation.
Wow.
This was right after Trump got elected. This is all happening right after. So this is what we were hoping for in a Trump victory. Well, guess what else? The Xi Jinping, he says, Chinese President Xi Jinping says he is ready to strengthen relations with the United. This is all good fucking news, ladies and gentlemen. This is the opposite of what the mainstream media has been telling us. That Trump is not respected. That Trump, no, people know that the neocon warmongers are Joe Biden and the asshole Anthony Blinken and the pricks that are running things right now, the Victoria Newlands, those
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
So all I'm saying is it looks good. Well, now we have to make sure we stay on him because he's indicated that he likes Pompeo again.
No!
Yeah. So I just want to show you, here's a speech by J.D. Vance. And can you imagine if a Democrat gave this speech? Here we go. Imagine if Joe Biden said this. Here we go.
We have built a foreign policy of hectoring and moralizing and lecturing countries that don't want anything to do with it. The Chinese have a foreign policy of building roads and bridges and feeding poor people. And I think that we should pursue a foreign policy, a diplomacy of respect, and a foreign policy that is not rooted in moralizing. It's rooted in the national interest of this country. Because Ambassador Sullivan is at the lead of moralizing instead of pursuing America's national interest, I object.
So,
we have built
I gotta
a foreign policy of hectoring.
Let me just say, that J.D. Vance, weird. So let me ask my panel. Go ahead. So you take it first, Roseanne. Are you encouraged? Are you excited? Did it look? I mean, that's an amazing speech. That should be what every goddamn American politician is saying, and they're trying to make him out to be some kind of fucking maniac because your media is run by the war machine, which is owned by Wall Street, and they don't want shit like that being said. So they got to make him sound weird, and they got to make him look like he's a traitor to our country, when actually the people who are traitors to our country are the people who own the fucking media in this goddamn country, and the people who own both political parties. And this is a breakout from that. And I can honestly and enthusiastically cheer on J.D. Vance with this speech, and I hope more catches on.
Yeah, I really admire him because he comes from, like kind of lower working class and pulled himself up and made the American dream happen.
Appalachian.
It's just fantastic. And they have common sense. That's what's good. They're not bullshitting. They're not trying to pander to they're not pandering to people to get their votes. They're saying what's in our heart and our mind and why we voted the way we did, because we want fucking common sense.
I've been saying,
and we want peace, right? And we want peace and prosperity and all that good shit. We don't want any more of their bullshit. They're all privileged fucking lesbian witches. Fuck them.
I agree completely.
Good, pull it. That was Dr. Drew's professional opinion right there. All right, so what did you think about that, Block Scott?
Oh man. Well, hey, shout out to Sam Tripoli being on that all-star panel there. That was pretty cool.
He's one of the stars of that Hollywood Squares of independent media producers called the Union of the Unwanted. And shout out to Ricky Varandas.
Yeah, Ricky, Charlie, Mike, OBDM, the whole crew. Yeah,
For
much
sure.
love all that.
It was nice to see Sammy on that.
Yeah,
getting out there with Jimmy.
Yeah, I was just hanging with Sam a couple weeks ago up in Louisville, dude. Like he's the man. I brought him a copy of my album. I was very happy for it. Let's see. So the whole thing is like, I think it's so fascinating that people's eyes are opening to the 2020 thing. I've seen so many memes highlighting like Reddit posts of like, maybe more progressive people being like, damn, dude, maybe we did steal the election. You know what I mean? So it's starting to like enter the zeitgeist that this is even maybe a possibility. It's really interesting to see. That's like, I'm trying to put myself like 2020 was, I have to say, exceptionally strange and much different than the 2024. Like, at least from my perspective, being in Oregon, where it felt like everything was on the line, at that time, we've talked about this on the show, I feel like at the time it was believable that many people could potentially have gone out because of the fervor and the insanity of the times itself. Like, that's the only rationalization I had, that maybe there was a chance that, like, you just can't underestimate that Trump hatred. You cannot underestimate how much people hated Trump. And at the time I was like, part of me, even though I do believe that it was stolen and fraudulent, there could be an argument made, a pretty reasonable argument, that the Trump hatred propaganda was enough to drive that many people out. You know what I mean? That is a legitimate argument, in my opinion.
I'd meet you halfway and say that they thought they were stealing it for the right reasons, because they were told he's Hitler and a racist and all this other crazy, scary stuff. Yeah. So well-meaning people at Time Magazine, New York Times, Washington Post, who aren't actually part of, Operation Mockingbird, just well-meaning people who are around those mockingbirds saying that stuff all the time, they take it on as their opinion, and they're well-meaning people. I can forgive them. I understand what it's like to be a human being and make a mistake. I'm not willing to just let go of the criminal stuff done by the deep state leadership, which has nothing to do with the voting population. It's not among our people, we the people. It's the external apparatus. And if they spoke a different language, it would be a lot easier to identify these types of spy and espionage pioneers of the Anglo-American establishment, which is why I've spent so much time invested, really, so much time in disambiguating exactly like who are the people doing it and who are the innocent bystanders. Because I do think we need to be discerning. And I think that, freedom and liberty will ring.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's such a clash between the coverage and just the how they went after Trump in 2020 versus how they went after him this time. It's like, it's like Jesse said, I feel like they kind of went easy on him. And, you see all these people shifting sides, like lifelong Democrats shifting over to Trump, for various different reasons. But I feel like they kind of threw in the towel, and they definitely kind of let him have it for one degree or another. And I kind of think that, what Jesse kind of insinuated there towards the end of his segment there was that, they're setting him up for something. And I'm in that camp. I'm like, dude, something ain't right here. Something ain't right here. Like, yeah, that was like, that just seemed so, like, I was ready for all the tricks to come out election day. I was watching it from the bug out location, the secret bunker. I brought all of my munitions out there, and we were ready to hunker down. We were prepared for anything. And it was like nothing happened. And we're like, I was kind of halfway disappointed. I'm like, damn, I was ready to rock and roll. But anyway, just kidding. But like, like we were ready for everything. But it was just like nothing, literally nothing. It was completely uneventful. Like everything worked. And I was like, hold on, that's not how this is supposed to go. Like, they're just going to let him have it? Like, they're just going to let Trump just take... No. There's something bigger going on here. I hate to say it, but there's something bigger going on here, dude. This deep state, I don't know. I'm in that camp, so we'll see. I hope I'm wrong, dude. I hope this is the great renaissance. I hope this is the great awakening, the great reversal of everything, that human freedom and prosperity reaches heights unforeseen, jubilees, complete health, revolution, like all the stuff. But I'm like, man, I don't know. Am I going to even allow myself to get that excited about it?
No fear, no fear, no fear.
No fear. Well, no fear.
No fear.
Of course, no fear, dude. We're just gonna be memeing and having a great time
Look,
either way.
Here's
Even
how
if
it
it
works.
does, yeah.
One side or the other ends up manifesting their worst fears.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Knowing that that's the game, don't do that. You know, when I got to Q&A today with the autonomy students, I knew that we had to like have a talk. So I opened it like this, like, if you voted for Kamala, like I empathize with your plight. If you believed a whole bunch of things that weren't true, I've been there and done that before. You have to grow through that phase. And it was probably like, I don't know, 45 minutes of me explaining like, look, this is not the first election in history. And here's how it has worked. And here's who the deep state is. And here's how they work. And here's the people that support the deep state agenda. And they just happen to have a Democratic candidate who is threatened. The entire deep state threatened by the other guy who kind of like, did it on a dare back in 2016 after they made fun of him at that correspondence dinner. And if Obama had kept his mouth shut, Trump would have never been president. It wasn't Seth Meyers who got him to do it. It was Obama making fun of him in front of all those people. Trump was a Democrat most of his life. And, so anyway, they do it to themselves, like the Radiohead song says. And we have to stand around and watch, disenfranchised most of the time. Because if you're not red team, blue team, you're 100% politically disenfranchised and have no representation.
Yeah, they can't have too many of us running around out there.
Yeah.
Although I will say I did. Okay, so here's another thing too. I allowed myself to get caught up in the fanfare of it and the festivities of it. I did. I allowed myself to have fun with it. I have in like one of my drawers as an artifact, something that'll be hilarious to show the grandkids. I do have a Make America Great Again hat, a red one, an original 2016 one. It's like it doesn't say 45 or 47. It was like a 2016 campaign one, like the OG original one. And so I threw that bad boy on. I was like, all right, it's like, just putting up little Christmas decorations for a couple days. So I allowed myself to go there for a minute, and I have to admit, it was very fun, but it is what it is.
Things like that have to be memorialized in this week's time capsule. And that's a section coming up after this next block, which includes the future CIA director, the current Federal Reserve director, and the former investigator of all things Trump who raided Mar-a-Lago with an authority to kill the president if he resisted, if you remember. All of a sudden, none of that is necessary now, and all his legal troubles are allegedly going away, almost as if they only existed to prevent him from becoming president by a landslide, which was probably why he got the landslide vote. And people came out in all those swing states, said, I don't know what's going on here, but they're taking what they felt was the safe bet. And you're going to hear a lot of people blamed for it tonight, mostly white men and white women. And I think that's a racist way to look at things. Maybe you should look at your policies and the other things you're doing and not assume everyone else is racist like you. All right, let's go to the block.
What are you doing? I'm burying you. I'm alive! I'm alive! You're waking the neighbors! No. Shut up! No!
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. If the effects of Donald Trump winning in a landslide last for more than 4 hours, please consult your physician. You can only get so excited. You can only get so excited on the internet, on this show. We try to do a family-friendly show, but holy crap, I'm so sick of winning already. And I'm not sick of winning. We haven't even gotten started yet. Look at this. They just called Michigan and Arizona will fall like a domino. What the hell is wrong with Arizona? Give me a break. Donald Trump at 301 electoral votes. And you know what that's called? It's called a mandate. See you later, Camilla. Have a great time wherever you live. Probably Canada. Spirit Halloween has now taken over all of Kamala's accounts. And now we have something absolutely and totally glorious to show you. That is about as majestic as this. Frame it, put it on the wall. But ladies and gentlemen, it gets better. Oh, it always gets better. Jack Smith has been fired. The special prosecutor, the bearded freak who is a disgrace to his profession, who should be disbarred, who, of course, was going after Donald Trump, who raided President Trump's home. Jack Smith was behind the raid of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Jack Smith, turns out you can't actually prosecute a sitting president, and Donald Trump's your boss, bitch. Donald Trump's your daddy. Who's your daddy? Donald Trump. Jack Smith has been fired, ladies and gentlemen. According to Fox News, DOJ is now confirming that Jack Smith will be gone before Trump is sworn in. They confirmed that Jack Smith's cases will all be dropped. Like Davis saying, and the probes of Jack Smith will open on January 20th. DOJ officials are evaluating how to wind down 2 federal criminal cases against Donald Trump before he takes office to comply with longstanding department policy that sitting presidents will not be prosecuted. 2 people familiar with the matter tell NBC. The DOJ cannot prosecute a sitting president. This is so delicious.
News about special counsel Jack Smith, this man right here. Donald Trump said recently that he would fire Jack Smith, quote, within 2 seconds of taking office. Well, we found out that he may not have that opportunity. The reason is that the Department of Justice, where Jack Smith works, cannot prosecute a sitting president. Fox News is told that Jack Smith will be gone from his post as special counsel, meaning the cases will be gone before Trump takes the oath of office at noon on January 20th. This is the documents case, though that was dropped already by Judge Eileen Cannon back over the summer, and it's on appeal, but also this case for Trump's alleged efforts to try to overturn the 2020 election. So given the fact DOJ policy says you cannot prosecute a sitting president, expect Jack Smith's cases to be done. The last case, and I'll end on this, is that Atlanta case that deals with the 2020 elections. That's a local Georgia case. We've seen over the last year how that has played out with Fonnie Willis, Nathan Wade. That has many problems, many different delays. So the bottom line for my story to all of you right now, Donald Trump's legal problems have essentially all gone away.
What man intends for evil, God intends for good. Trump to Jack Smith. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye now. Please let the door hit you on the way out. And also what's going to hit Jack Smith on the way out is probably 100,000 different subpoenas from Mike Davis and some of our friends who have promised, actually, that that's exactly what they're going to do to Jack Smith. Leo Terrell, who's a lawyer, says, please let me fire Jack Smith, says President Trump. Well, the DOJ says, hold our beer. We're going to fire Jack Smith for you. Save your records, Jack Smith. Everyone's saying the same thing. GFY Jack Smith, says the great Julie Kelly. Announce an investigation in the special counsel office and collusion with the Biden White House immediately. Jack Smith has just filed a superseding indictment against Donald Trump. He did this, ladies and gentlemen, on the eve of the election, just 90 days out from an election, in order to rig an election against Donald Trump. Jack Smith should be put in prison. Jack Smith should be put in prison for colluding to rig an election against President Trump. Jack Smith belongs in jail. Up until just 2 weeks ago, Jack Smith was continually filing indictments against Donald Trump to try and create a news cycle around President Trump and to try and rig the election. Special Counsel Jack Smith is in active talks with senior leadership at the DOJ, evaluating the ways that he can end his prosecution. Bye, Felicia. Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, Jack Smith, Matthew Colangelo. All of you need to save your receipts, emails, voicemails, text messages, day planners, diaries, notes, financials, and bank statements. There isn't enough money in the world that can stop the lawfare tornado that is about to rip you to pieces. Oh, it's just glorious. Donald Trump's legal problems have all gone away. The legal problems of Jack Smith have just begun. Ladies and gentlemen, on our program, Mike Davis was sounding off about what's going to happen to Jack Smith. You can tell how terrified they are, by the way. Let's look at the look in their eyes on NBC News.
He takes office, citing the long-standing DOJ policy that sitting presidents can't be prosecuted. And there was some thought that maybe Special Counsel Jack Smith was going to sprint through the finish line, was going to work up until the last day, force Trump to fire him, wait till a new attorney general was appointed. But that does not appear to be the thinking inside the department. The thinking is that these cases can't go forward. There's no reasonable prospect of getting to trial within the 3 months before Donald Trump takes office. These cases are mired in legal issues that would be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court had Donald Trump lost the election. So now that he's won the election, DOJ officials are thinking that, look, there's just no room to move in these cases. And so the sensible thing to do is to figure out a way to wind them down. And it may stem from Donald Trump's lawyers filing some kind of motion or making a request saying, in light of the DOJ policy, Obviously, you need to drop these cases. Now, there are a few wrinkles here, one of which is that the classified documents case includes 2 other defendants.
Well, you saw it here, folks. Shots fired at the FOMC yesterday with the Q&A session. And I have to say, Powell, when he strutted at the podium, he had that swagger. It was pointed to one person. That person wasn't in the room, but his shadow was. And finally, I was hoping that maybe what turned out to be the most explosive question was the first, but it did come up. Take a listen.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
Bam! Did I say shots fired? Powell almost daring President-elect Trump to come after him or any of the members of the Federal Reserve. Now, we know recently Trump has already said that he doesn't want to fire Jay Powell, but he does believe the executive branch should have a seat at the table when it comes to monetary policy. Now, of course, the media, still wiping the egg off their face, came in to chime support for Powell. But I think about this all the time, right? Independent Fed, none of that's in the Constitution. Heck, the National Bureau of Economic Research, stamping business cycles, where'd that come from? And now we're talking about Basel III, right? The rest of the world holding American banks hostages. I want to bring in First Trust Advisors Chief Economist Brian Westbury, because he's also an amazing student of history. And I just got to get your thoughts on the Federal Reserve and its potential dust-up between Trump and Powell.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened before, Charles, and but the only way really to get rid of a Fed chair is the way they got rid of Volcker, and that is Reagan slowly put people on the Fed, and they eventually had a mutiny against him. He lost a vote, and then after that happens, you kind of have to quit. You're the captain of the ship, and nobody wants to listen to you, so you quit. You can't force him out.
Right.
I do worry that politicians, when you let politicians get control of monetary policy, they're way more likely to keep it too easy.
Right.
Now, and so that's how you get inflation. And today, the embers of inflation, they're not out, and we have to be really careful. If we cut rates too much, if we start printing, doing quantitative easing again, inflation will pop right back up. And that worries me.
And I think to that point, though, Brian, I want to pick up on that, because even without any executive branch pressure, our central bank has had this magical toolbox, and they created all of these different things, right? They created quantitative easing and all of these things. More or less, they put trillions of dollars into an economy, and they've always come to the rescue of it, sometimes when it didn't need it. Where's accountability? How do we find a sweet spot where there's accountability for the public, not the executive branch, but for the general public?
Charles, this is the thing. If you want to pick a fight with the Fed, I think it's really easy. Ben Bernanke and Jerome Powell, with this quantitative easing, they've grown the Fed's balance sheet by 85% in 16 years. They created 60% of all the M2, all the money in circulation in just 16 years, which means way more than we had in the first 219 years. They've increased their power. They've increased their staff. I mean, people don't understand this. The Federal Reserve has staffers focused on climate change. They have staffers in Chicago focused on lead in water pipes and community engagement and all kinds of activist positions. The Fed shouldn't be involved in any of that.
Right.
And not only that, they created the highest inflation in 40 years. They haven't really been blamed for it. They should be. We need to take the Fed back to Ben Bernanke levels. Get rid of abundant reserves, go back to scarce reserves, and limit the Fed's power. That's the fight I would have if I were Donald Trump.
Right. For me, it feels like the Greenspan moment, 87 saving the stock market, being christened the maestro. Feels like these folks are always working for Wall Street more than Main Street. I want to, just less than a minute to go, Basel III has been a bone of contention. Just how much control should, again, one of these global agreements have over American banks?
Yeah, like Charles, we shouldn't listen to the WHO. We shouldn't listen to the UN Human Rights Commission. We shouldn't be part of the Paris Accord, and we should not be part of this Basel III. It increases the power of government, and all they're doing. I mean, Jamie Dimon has warned about this. You make me raise capital so much that I can't make loans at some point. And that's what the problem with this is. Yeah. And let me just add one little quick comment. You know, the stock market has jumped, bounced because, you know, after this election, I want to remind everybody that when Reagan won, which was a huge landslide and a complete change in direction for America, the S&P 500's PE ratio was 8. You know, so he had a lot of runway above him. It's now 27. So it's not like you're going to get the kind of 80s boom, even if we have better policy, because the market's kind of already got it priced in. Yeah. And in fact, more than priced in.
Well, I tell you, though, people are really, really excited. And you know, what can you say? It is an exciting moment for this country. Brian, thank you so much, my friend.
You know what? Let me give you my statistical analysis. There's a 100% chance that you're going to be somebody's 10 years of this. You know what that is? That's a big black man on your You, too late. He done tagged the next guy in. That's like a rabbit. Oh, I like his hair. He's breathing on you. That's disgusting. You deserve everything you're getting. Good luck on survival, sir.
Cash, how much money did you spend defending yourself against illegal and immoral prosecutions by the Biden DOJ?
Oh, man, I guess I got to go back and tabulate that. But that number was definitely high six figures. And, you know, that was the price just for me. And, you know, listen, at the end of the day, I probably had it light. Yes. So many people didn't. And I had support and others didn't. And it was just a tragic way for Washington, D.C. to utilize our Constitution unconstitutionally.
You were enemy number one, if I recall. Not kind of get nostalgic here, but if I recall, you were enemy number one after the first Trump administration. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely attacked. I still get attacked, and you know,
you're one of the first guys they dragged in, though, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you're one of the first guys. Yeah,
they didn't like the truth about Russiagate ever coming out. Then they didn't like. They used that as their MO for basically every other operation they launched. And listen, you bravely reported the truth. President Trump led the mission for the truth, and the country just returned a mandate for the truth.
Yes, that's right. These son of bitches have to pay, though. Man, I mean, like, to reset the tables, people are going to have faith in their institutions, and they're going to have to see the rot evicted and pulled, literally ripped out, right? Like a cancer. Can you talk me through, obviously you have the president's ear, and you've probably been thinking about this for a while, Cash. What are some of the first big steps that must be taken?
Yeah, look, in my opinion, I mean, I've made them public before. They're in the book, Government Gangsters, in the movie. You know, that's like President Trump called it the roadmap for 2024, and now let's put it into work. You know, basically, in the way, and you might be surprised here, the way I view accountability is not to have a list of people and say, I want this person, that person, this person, that person. The way for me to view full-term accountability is to clear out the rot in Washington, utilizing the Constitution, and exposing the corruption so the American people can see, touch, and feel it themselves rather than be dictated to them what it is and might look like. So it's a multi-term thing. It's a multifaceted thing. One, you need great leadership at the agencies and departments in terms of personnel, but you also need to go 6, 8, 10 rungs down that ladder. You got to make sure everybody is rowing in the direction of the duly elected president of the United States and his agenda. If you can couple that with constitutional oversight, like actual righteous constitutional oversight, just to think about this, Benny, you can get out all the remaining documents that were blocked by those in Washington, D.C. You can get out new documents if you want more information on, say, JFK or whatever, right? Whatever is important to the American people. I've always advocated for a Truth and Transparency Commission to be stood up on a 24/7 basis to say, hey, this is what America's interested in. Have someone, you know, at the White House looking at that for the president and saying this is of great importance, this isn't, and then have the ability to go to the intelligence community and say, look, this is getting declassified, or at least almost all of it is, because the classification system is critically important. I'll be the first one to tell you that, but I'll also be the first one to tell you I've caught them using it to cover up government corruption. So for me, it's like a full, bigger project of using the Constitution to just clean out DC.
Now, as somebody who's obviously held some of the highest rankings inside the Pentagon, and you've handled thousands, if not tens of thousands, of classified papers, how would the president is the person who has the right to classify or declassify? You've been on this program talking about this extensively. And so ultimately, it really does lie with President Trump and those around him who are advising him as to what we can learn and when. Yes?
Yeah, so the president is the final arbiter and ultimate arbiter, I should say, of classification. There's a couple of other people that can do it, like the director of national intelligence and maybe one or two other folks who have that power vested to them either by the president or statute. But yes, at the end of the day, the president can be like, I want all that out the door. And it goes out the door. And you can sort of fold it into Elon Musk's Department of Government, the Doge project, whatever he calls it. And
Doge.
say, Doge. And say, look, you want government efficiency? Well, then let's expose the inefficiencies of government for the American people to see. Like, how do we lose, not spend and waste, how do we lose multiple billions of dollars in the Ukraine? We lost it. It didn't light on fire. We physically can't find the money. That's unacceptable. That's just one example. And then when we go back to DOJ and FBI, we still don't have all the list, all the FISAs, all of the stuff they did to 275,000 Americans illegally in 1 year. Put that out there. I'm not saying put in the recipe on how to do it. We can keep the hood on the engine, but we can show the American people how they violated our rights. And to me, what you said is the most important: restoring trust in our agencies and departments. That the way to do that is not to get a piñata and just punch them mercilessly and hoping for some bubble gum to pop out. The way to do that is to literally give the American people the truth. And that's what they feared about Donald Trump. He's going to come in there and maybe give him the Epstein list and maybe give him the P. Diddy list. You know, he's going to come up there and maybe do all these things, and they are terrified.
Yeah, I believe that's part of the reason why Jimmy Kimmel was crying last night on his program. But also, I believe that this is something that the American public desperately want. And most importantly, this is how you restore honor and how you restore trust. Now, many may not know, some will, that you are personally responsible for the research on the Russiagate collusion. Everything we know about Russiagate, and we know maybe like less than half of what really happened with Russiagate, Kash Patel is the one who found it out with Devin Nunes. So, Kash, you have an excellent pedigree in rooting out the truth. Will we get the full Diddy list? Will we get Epstein? Will we get JFK? Will we get the rest of what happened with Russia collusion?
That's what I want. That's what I want as me as an American citizen. That's what I want in terms of achieving that restoration of respect for government in D.C. that's been gone for like 50, 60 years, right? I had said on the campaign trail when I was on the Team Trump bus tour or surrogate somewhere, I said, America has a chance to retire the dynastic families that have rained down corruption in Washington, D.C. on November 5th. You could have retired the Bushes, the Cheneys, the Clintons, and the Obamas. And you know what, Benny? For the first time, I get to say they did. And part of that mandate that they deliver to Donald Trump is simply they want the truth.
Yes.
And I don't know why it has been, well, I do know why, but I believe and hope President Trump is going to go in there and just be a vehicle, a conveyor belt for the truth and just put it out nonstop. Yes. Agriculture Department, education, labor, all of it. Everywhere. And Congress is going to play such a critical role in these oversight investigations. Just think of what you can accomplish if you have a director or a secretary who actually works with the Republican chairman or chairwoman on oversight. It's incredible, not just for corruption revelation purposes, but to see how we actually budget and stop lighting your money on fire.
So, Kash, and here's, you hit the trail for President Trump. You were out. You were talking to these incredible grassroots groups all around the country. Your work was successful. You were victorious. And now we've entered the new American golden age. And perhaps this is why Nancy Pelosi looks like this. I wanted to get your take on this photo because you would have better insight than most since you were in the same Congress as Nancy Pelosi. Why does Nancy Pelosi look like this today? This photo was taken less than 12 hours ago.
Oh, you mean that's not CCPAI? Look, I think at the end of the day, the people that are making a lot of these emotional responses for public purposes and aren't actually real are the ones that are afraid that President Trump is going to reveal the corruption that has taken over Washington, D.C. And she's been there for I don't know. You want to talk about corruption? How about all of your insider trading that you got away with? Let's just leave it at that. Forget the rest. Forget the rest. Just that alone. Why isn't America allowed to trade on the information you trade on and make millions? Her piggy bank is about to be cracked open.
I mean, Martha Stewart went to prison, federal prison, for insider trading. Why not Nancy Pelosi?
No, it's just, what I think, and this is totally my opinion, the thing that pisses people off the most is hypocrisy. And the thing about Washington, D.C. is they have created two separate universes, one that they live in and one that everybody else gets to live in. And they dictate over the other one. And America's sick and tired of that two-tier version of whatever you want to call it, justice, intel, whatever it is. They're sick and tired of it. They're just like, hey, if I broke the law, I get arrested. If you broke the law, you should get arrested. You shouldn't get a get-out-of-jail-free pass. You shouldn't get a hall pass like Hillary Clinton did for everything related to Russiagate and the classified document scandal. I mean, that was a righteous violation of federal law. And America also looked at Donald Trump and said, wait a second, this guy, who, whether you like him or not, he just got run up 4 times on indictments, and they gave Joe Biden a pass in the middle of an election season. And then DOJ saying, oh, we never get involved in elections. You literally did the opposite by manufacturing a case on Constitution against one client and giving one candidate and giving the other guy a total hall pass. America is fed up with that two-tier alternate sets of realities, and they're tired of being ridden by these overlords.
I must get, Cash, your takes on AG, on Secretary of Defense, on Homeland Security. I got to tell you, bro, Agriculture Secretary, Department of the Interior, that's fun. I look forward to it. I have a feeling those are going to be some of our best friends there. But the ones I will be focused on will be DHS, the Attorney General, and who's running our military. Those are the ones that this show will care about. So can you tell us, where is the status there? Who would you like to see? Do you have names that you like?
I have names, but I'm not going to, try to get out in front of my friends who I think would be brilliant in those positions. And I couldn't agree with you more that President Trump has this bench from the first administration on that he can install into these positions you're talking about. And I agree, the critically important roles of those national security posts and those chiefs of staff and everything. He's got some brilliant names to choose from. And if they get together and start rowing on the same team, we will literally see a golden age of America. And so right now, I just want to keep fighting if and where they ask me to fight, and help, just help the transition, help whatever I can, because, until the president decides otherwise, we're just here to put forward the best names until he makes a selection. And I think we're doing that.
What would you see as agenda item number 1 and 2 for this administration? Were you in a position to work on DOGE or to oversee some of the lawfare, obviously, that has persecuted you? What would you see as some of the first and second agenda items down the list?
Depending on which agency and department you're talking about, if you're at DOD, you want to do a reformatting of the budget immediately, overnight.
Interesting. Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because they're the biggest pot, $800+ billion, and we got to re-examine. I would call in every single CEO of every single big defense contractor. I called them on day one when I was chief of staff at DOD. 4 of them called me back, 1 did not. And I would bring them in and say, "Look, you guys do a lot of great stuff, but I can't keep watching literally billion-dollar projects blow up out of the sky, and there be no repercussions. Unacceptable. I need you." And I also need to look internally at DOD, at the R&D process, to be like, why are we giving out all of this defense money to these contractors when so many of them, unfortunately, don't deliver on time or under budget or actually just fail outright? So that's DOD. When it comes to DOJ, FBI, man, we just need an AG and FBI director to go out there and say, we're just going to use the Constitution, whether you live in D.C. or Montana. It's not a hard task. And one of my recommendations would be, look, the folks at FBI headquarters Hoover Building, there's like 8,000, 7,000, whatever the number is. I know CNN will be like, Cash said 7,000, there's only 6,800. But whatever the number is, I've always said this, close that building down and open it up the next day as a museum of the deep state. And let everybody walk the halls for free. And take the 50 people you actually need to run the FBI and move them to a basement, and take the rest of the cops, the agents, and send them across America to chase down sex slave traffickers, to chase down narco traffickers, to chase down terrorists and murderers and rapists and criminals. People keep asking me, how are we going to find all these illegals that President Trump wants to deport? Well, we have like 22,000 cops. It's a good start. Just half of them live in Washington. There's no need for things like that. When you go to the intel communities, you could take a similar focus. And I would say we need to start prioritizing intelligence collection methods, not on DEI, white rage, and climate change, but we need to focus on the threat of Iran, CCP, Russia, and terrorists, and returning our hostages. And we need to make sure our analytical community comes together and doesn't grossly, not digest, but misstate what the intelligence actually says to our leadership. That's the core of the problem for me. President Trump was failed not just by DOJ and FBI. They were sort of more like the tip of the spear. He was failed at the core by the intelligence community and their analysts who bastardized the intelligence to change what it meant. And that led to everything from Russiagate to impeachment one with Charmella to the 51 intel letter, Hunter Biden's laptop. So you need someone operating the intelligence community to return it to what it's supposed to be doing. And those are just some things that hopefully will happen with the new bevy of leadership.
Christopher Wray, does he keep his job or no?
It's up to Trump. I would say, in my opinion, there's better folks for the president to have that job.
Yeah. What about Hunter Biden and a pardon? Like, what do you think about that? I'm seeing that idea kind of bubble up, that Donald Trump just like kind of shoves the past into the past and says, we're done with that. We're looking to the future. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, if the president wants to do that, that's his complete and total right. He received that mandate from the American people, and he's led a campaign about unity and moving forward. And, if that's what needs to happen to do so, great. At the end of the day, we have we have accomplished the goal behind President Trump's leadership of exposing the corruption surrounding the Hunter Biden stuff. All of it, right? Everyone now knows. And so do we want to exact more blood out of that stone, or do we say maybe we want to go out and get the corrupt actors overseas that are looking to strike America's national defenses? We only have so many people and so much manpower to do all these things. And if you lift a set of people off one, then they can't do the other. And so I'm all about priorities. And to me, it's the defense of this country. And right now, here's the scary thing, Benny. Our enemies, our actual enemies, are going to use these next 2 months to the max because they did not want Trump in. And now we have been left open. And I don't know what Biden's announced. He's going on some world tour. That's not what he should be doing, in my opinion. He should be buckling down and preparing the transition like the one I led for President Trump at DOD, so that when we do the handoff, we are ready for the no-fail mission to continue. But that's what I'm focused on, what they're doing, and then what the Biden and Harris administration is going to do to actually let President Trump transition.
Very quickly, Cash, I can't move from this interview without asking about Juan Merchan this morning saying, I think I'm going to drop these charges. Jack Smith has been sent to a post in Alaska. He's done. The DOJ now winding down all of those prosecutions. I mean, man, brother, you have been on this program speaking the truth for years about what they're doing with political prosecutions to Donald Trump. Can you talk to me about the landscape as it stands right now? It's all doomed, I think.
Well, it's constitutionally doomed.
Yes.
There is an actual principle at the Department of Justice that has been followed for like 100 years. The DOJ cannot prosecute and investigate a sitting president. And it's not because Kash Patel said so. It's because it's been adjudicated to be a violation of the separation of powers, which is a constitutional bedrock principle, which prohibits the executive branch from attacking its own White House commander in chief. And the
Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. I saw you had a guest on, I think today or yesterday, and they were talking a lot about January 6th. Now, I sniffed that out pretty quickly as a FBI psyop. You know, when the Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, was asked point blank, did you have FBI assets dressed up as MAGA supporters inside the Capitol before the riot started? And he said, I can't answer that question. Well, that was it. I knew exactly. And I knew that half those people showed up because they were pissed off about an election they thought was stolen, just like the other half of the country thought that Russia stole an election for 4 years. And they showed up to protest, and they didn't know it. Really, they were trying to overthrow the government, a bunch of guys in pajama bottoms and buffalo helmets. I'm going to go to Nancy Pelosi's office and take a shit. That's not a coup, that's a poo, okay? You know? And half of those people got pushed in to the Capitol by the FBI plants in the crowd, and the other half got let in by the cops who took the fences away. And I know that because I saw it on your show. I saw the video. Those cops did everything except erect a bouncy house inside the Capitol for the protesters. And so tell me, so if that was an FBI setup, and we have, by the way, video, Mike Benz talked about it on my show, of Nancy Pelosi saying they've now trespassed on federal land. That's exactly what we wanted. So, of course, this was a setup. And so why is that important, and what does it mean?
Well, it's important because it shows that the most publicized crime, since 9/11 was fake. I mean, like the war in Ukraine, which was effectively started by the Biden administration, prodding Russia with threats of including Ukraine in NATO, prodding Russia to invade Ukraine. It's the opposite of what they tell us. Oh, it was an unprovoked war. Okay. It was the opposite of that. You provoked the war. January 6th was not an insurrection. No, it was an op where Nancy Pelosi and others, I would say on a bipartisan basis, used the outrage of Trump voters who thought the election was stolen. People actually believe in the Constitution. Maybe they're wrong. I mean, tell me how they're wrong. We could have the debate. But these were not insurrectionists. These are people trying to defend the system they grew up in. They believe in democracy, unlike Liz Cheney. And they were painted as sort of the dangerous extremists. They were all unarmed. It was like an inordinate number of 65-year-old diabetic grandmothers with 2 bankruptcies. Ashley Babbitt was a pool cleaner and a U.S. military veteran, an Air Force veteran, who was barely over 5 feet tall, unarmed, shot to death by Michael Byrd, who was a Capitol Police officer with a documented history of reckless behavior with a firearm. And there's no investigation into it. He's not censured? No. You know what happened to Michael Byrd? He got government-funded bodyguards to protect him at home because he was the victim of hate, because people ask questions like, are you allowed to just shoot unarmed women now? Without even explaining why you did it? Without even pretending there was a physical threat to you? He never even pretended. She was standing on the other side of the door. He murdered her. And everybody in Washington, almost every single member of Congress, almost 435, Republicans as well, said, thank you, Michael Byrd, for protecting us. This woman got murdered. I mean, you may hate her politics. You may hate her. You're not allowed to murder people. And no one's allowed to murder people. And the government especially is not allowed to murder people. And they just kind of let it, I mean, to this day, no one will talk about it. And her mother showed up on the Capitol to protest her daughter's murder, and she was promptly arrested for jaywalking. I'm not making this up. You can find the video online. So you just realize the whole point of this exercise is to usher in a police state. If I'm wrong, tell me how. But clearly that's what the point is. And rather than do it in a straightforward way, where you just like dress up in a black uniform and beat me with a truncheon, I mean, that's bad, but at least I know what's happening. You do it in this feminized, passive-aggressive way where you enslave me and then lecture me about being immoral. There's something about it I can't tolerate it because it's too feminized for me. I'm a man. And I believe if you're going to attack someone, say, I'm going to attack you, and then punch him in the face. Because then we both know what's going on. What I don't believe in is shooting someone and then claiming you're the victim. Shooting an unarmed woman and then claiming you need protection because you're under attack. I can't deal with that. I mean, that's too dysfunctional for me. It's too dishonest.
I agree, and I've had this conversation with many people, famously with Cornel West on my show, when he said that Donald Trump was a fascist and Joe Biden wasn't, because Donald Trump tried to overthrow the peaceful transfer of power on January 6th. And I was like, really? A bunch of Second Amendment gun nuts showed up to overthrow the government, and son of a bitch, they forgot their guns. Isn't that what? I bet they were embarrassed. I really. Hey, Mike, you got the guns? No, I brought mittens. Oh. Shit. So what do Dick Cheney and Kamala Harris have in common?
Oh, everything. Everything. A worship of violence. I mean, for years I defended Cheney. I know Cheney. I've been hunting with Cheney more than once.
Oh, watch out.
Dangerous.
That was dangerous. No, I actually, I literally have been. And,
You're a survivor.
So I just want to, I'm only saying that, obviously not to brag, but just to say this is a world that I'm very familiar with and a world that I spent an awful lot of time defending over the years. To my shame, I'm repenting of that now in a heartfelt way. I'm ashamed that I did that. But my conclusion is that a lot of the criticism aimed at Cheney originally was right. That this is a person who spent his life in the federal bureaucracy without risking anything, of course. And bureaucracies of all kinds, particularly ours, reward kind of feline behavior, kissing up and pissing down. They reward the most dishonorable kind of behavior. And people who spend their lives in them wind up in kind of a Walter Mitty state of mind, where they imagine that all the kind of disgusting infighting they're doing is actually noble. And they transfer this desire for heroism onto the rest of the world in the form of war. In other words, like if you're Tony Blinken, and you're clearly a guy who has no respect at all from his own wife, because no woman could respect Tony Blinken, how do you compensate for that? Well, you just kill a lot of people. And then you feel like, well, I'm Winston Churchill now, I'm a hero out of history. And clearly that's going on with Dick Cheney. And clearly that's going on with Kamala Harris. And I think it's one of the reasons, famously, that she put all those black dudes in jail for smoking joints or whatever she did, because it made her feel like, I'm tough now, I'm strong. But the truth is, it doesn't make you strong to hurt the helpless, the defenseless at all. It makes you cruel, it makes you a bully, it makes you a contemptible figure. Strong people, if you got a problem with me, like let's throw down your weapon and let's fight. I mean, that's what the honorable response is. But people like Dick Cheney or that mustachioed creep who Trump has as his national security advisor, John Bolton, guys like that, I mean, they've never been to war. I mean, they are the classic definition of chicken hawk. They've never been in a fist fight before. They have no appreciation for the cost of violence. And so they inflict it. And Liz Cheney is out of a movie that way. And I will say, and I'm going to say something controversial, you'll probably disavow me, but I just noticed it, that, my whole childhood, I heard growing up in Southern California that we need more women in leadership because they'd be more reasonable and more peaceful. They'd be conciliatory, they'd be the mother figures. And I thought that sounded right to me. And I was not against that at all. But in effect, what we've seen is the most bloodthirsty people on the national stage are not exclusively women, but they're disproportionately women. They are. I don't know what that's about. No, I'm serious.
Wait. Tucker, what about women with dicks, though?
Well, that's, they're probably, honestly, I think Bruce Jenner's probably a little bit less likely to send you to war than Toria Nuland.
Very reasonable woman, very intelligent, very strong woman.
They didn't say it.
No, it's true.
They didn't say it was.
Like, what is it? Why doesn't someone account for that? Like, why is it every time I look around at someone in the Congress, the most blood, Victoria Spartz or whatever, a Republican, the women who were like, the members who were the most excited about sending some grotesque new killing device, cluster bombs to Ukraine, they're women. Like, what is that? Again, they've never been in a fist fight, guaranteed. They have no experience of violence whatsoever. So, as someone who has had his ass kicked twice, I've had 2 black eyes because I got drunk and threw the first punch. And twice, both times, I got crushed because I was the aggressor. And what did I learn from that? First of all, I better quit drinking, which I did. And the second thing I learned from that is don't pick fights. Actually, you get your ass kicked.
Time for a rematch.
The black eye twice. Yeah, you learned something from that.
Well, I figured these people thought that way when they started saying words are violence. And I was like, oh, you have not experienced any violence.
Well, it also
violence worshippers themselves.
Oh, sorry, Sammy. It's like when Nikki Haley signed those bombs. I mean, there's a bunch of politicians that signed bombs, either for Ukraine or for Israel to drop on the Palestinians. There's a lot of signing of bombs in the past 6 months, and I bet you could use Clip Genie to pull that type of clip up there. Scott, what did you cogitate during the unfolding of those clips?
Yeah, well, let's see. There was a lot there. I think one of the indicators as to whether or not, Trump may or may not kind of be on the side of freedom would be if, like, on day one, he needs to go in and, like, pardon all the, like, nonviolent January 6ers. Like, that's just, like, inexcusable. It's really kind of interesting.
I believe
to
he
have
said
seen.
he would do that along
I know,
with Ross Ulbricht.
That's what I'm
and-
saying. Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he follows through. So that would be a good, like, litmus test to see.
And I was
kind of where he's
doubtful,
at.
like, because when politicians say on day one, I'm going to do this thing, I'm like, okay, maybe in the first term, maybe in the first quarter. I don't really expect it day one, but I have seen evidence that I think proves me wrong in the past 48 hours. The Trump team seems severely organized and they're unleashing all sorts of agendas. And if they're that organized, I bet shit does happen on day one that follows through on some of his promises. Although I would like to see him add nuance to anything to do with migrants and help people understand he's going after the criminals and the cartels that were brought in, not the moms and dads and kids that just happen to, like, get brought over by coyotes. If he adds that nuance, he could take the panic down on the other side and we can actually build the bridge faster together when they're not in fear of, like, their world falling apart. Because when we get into the next block coming up, the meltdowns were epic. And they were, I'm going to have LD scrub through anything that repeats as we go through the clips, because there's a couple that show up in everybody's clip, right? We don't need to watch it 10 times. But when you start to see it, I want to look at it as a study of these individuals are in turmoil. Did they do it to themselves? Yes, you have some agency to believe things that are true versus not true, right? You do have some say over it. Have they been abused by the people that trust them? Yes. Is it a Stockholm syndrome situation? Yeah, it is. And we shouldn't let it go on amongst our own population, especially. And we shouldn't be doing it to people around the world. So since we do live in the same country and speak the same language, I think it's a point where we could start for reconciliation. Not necessarily with the people in the videos. I think these are the worst case examples of people who either need clicks or they legitimately can't handle their emotions like an adult. And that's a function of our society. Extended adolescence is a thing. They don't want people to mature up, and that's why they hide the truth from you about how the world works. And so if you've been thinking conspiracy theories silly, then it's going to be pretty hard for you to come to terms with reality, because a lot of the stuff is actual and factual. They just didn't want you to know about it because they were gaslighting you, because taking your freedom is very powerful and profitable for them. But what happens when you have no freedom left to take? They're going to move on because they're the parasites. You're just left wanting. And so in order not to have that happen, I think, educating and kind of, filling the gap with some knowledge so that the context is restored, people can then take a deep breath and say, oh, we can enjoy life again. We don't have to worry either side about the other, because we are not each other's enemies. We do have opposition. They are organized, but we're not going to beat them with violence. We're going to have to understand what they're doing and outsmart them. And to outwit them, we can't be in pain, turmoil, frustration, aggression, or chaos. So violence is a danger to the movement, just like they said back in the Liberty Tree days. Now,
yeah, and it's really crazy how there's a sorry, but there's like a double standard as far as that goes, because like this, we did a show. I did like a bonus show last night. We were covering a lot of this stuff, and one of the things we came across is this compilation clip of all of the calls to violence by the left. Like literally this last week, I have a 10-minute clip of nothing but Twitter posts of people straight up, like, I don't even want to repeat it on the air. Like they're just like, okay, so who's going to KILL him? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like as pointed and not cloaked speech imaginable. Like people are saying, okay, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? It's just like a 10-minute clip of this. It's insane. And then you saw the Jeremy Kauffman thing from a few weeks ago where it was like a kind of an ambiguous thing that may or may not have been said by him. You get FBI at the door, and then you got like literally like 100 Twitter
pointed threats, and they don't care.
They don't care. Yeah.
So it's political.
Mm-hmm. Crazy stuff. So
deep state's only threatened by one side, which I find to be interesting this time.
Mm-hmm.
When Bush was running versus Kerry, deep state wasn't threatened by either side. When, Bush ran against Obama, deep state wasn't worried because they had both sides covered. That had gone on since 1908 according to Ron Chernow in his book, The Warburgs, in there they say that the three Warburg brothers had bought out the three American candidates. So no matter who won, the Warburgs and their betters, who were the Rothschilds, who had trained the Warburgs and sent them here as America, as their agents in America. So they had, bought up all the options for politics for a long time. And, there's some weaker arguments that could be made to say the same thing against Trump. Although, I mean, the uniform orchestra against him and the assassination attempts that continue to precipitate, apparently, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, he got elected, so he gets to go sit in the White House. Hopefully, they don't install Kamala and do some sort of like state of emergency and everything's suspended. Martial law types. I don't know what they do, but they did just do that DOD directive back in September, 5202 point whatever it was, where it said posse comitatus is no longer a thing. And they didn't do that to hand that power to Trump. So one could only assume that they intended to use it if he won. But maybe the landslide nature of that has made them second guess that move because, urban versus rural isn't a pretty game to play. Anyway, we have more to cover because the Trump team, this was posted by RFK Jr. on his YouTube, because I don't follow Trump on YouTube, but I did follow RFK Jr., so he slid this into my feed. It just said speech on the front of it, on the thumbnail. So I was like, what's that about? And it says Trump free speech. That's it. So apparently he has a new platform he's announced, and apparently he has other ones, because I saw one there. It is, if you have concealed carry for Second Amendment purposes, it is now reciprocal in all states. That's his plan. So don't do it yet, because they'll catch you tomorrow, I'm sure, doing the thing. But it means when you travel with your family, you don't have to follow different procedures depending on various dotted lines on the map, right? That's nice perk. But I was really excited in this next clip to hear about something called the Digital Bill of Rights. First, I was skeptical because I don't know what it is. But then when I heard what it was, I was like, man, I have been afflicted by all those things for the past 10 years, pretty much since 2016. My work has been nearly impossible to find unless you know how to find it, or one of the few who are subscribed to it and still get my stuff, right? Shadow banned, blacklisted, red listed, whatever you want to call it, it could be restored. We, Scott, you and I, if we put out videos and YouTube says we don't like it, they have to tell us what we did wrong. And we would have a chance to fight back against it in a court of law. And basically, if what you're doing isn't police worthy, they have no business taking it down. And that applies to everybody, regardless of red team or blue team. I think the field of ideas should be filled up with ideas and not just one side, because when you only have one side, people get really disappointed when the other side shows up in reality. They're like, where'd that come from? They act all surprised, as you're going to see, but not in this block. We got more serious stuff to do before we get to the streams of liberal tears. All right, so we're going to learn about Trump's free speech platform. And then Jimmy Dore did a little research. No, Trump never said he admired Hitler. Figured it's worth, because you're going to hear references that he's Hitler. You might need to know that. Last, holy shit, Trump's plan will change everything in the U.S. That's from Clayton Morris over at Redacted. Yeah, I thought it was pretty on point. It was inspirational. It wasn't like, hey, let's, go after the Democrats, I think they're in enough panic and fear on their own. I don't think anyone else needs to stir the pot on that. And we should take steps to alleviate and de-escalate so that we can all appreciate the goodness of our lives. All right, so let's go to this block and learn some more before we get to the meltdowns. Must be due to climate change, by the way.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis- or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year cooling-off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data. Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we'll begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America.
Everybody come see us on tour. We'll be in Columbus, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. The latest crazy thing that they're doing now, Kamala Harris, is that, they can't run on anything that they've done for anybody, right? Because the Democrats, remember when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ran for president against Donald Trump, they promised us a public option. And what is the public option? The public option is not Medicare for all, but it gives you the ability to buy into Medicare for all instead of buying from Blue Cross, who's just going to deny you when you're at your worst, right? So you could buy into Medicare, and then enough people would buy into Medicare, and pretty soon it would become Medicare for all, because nobody's going to buy from fucking Blue Cross if they can buy into Medicare. And so that's why they won't let you do that. So they ran on Medicare for all, they ran on the minimum wage, and after they got elected, they never talked about either of those two things ever again. It never got brought up by AOC or the Squad or even Bernie Sanders, cuck to power that he is, has never brought up any of that shit. And so all they have left to run on is that Donald Trump is some kind of an existential threat. Even though everybody loved him for 50 fucking years in the establishment, he was on every late night talk show, on the cover of every magazine. He got his balls washed on The View. Stephen Colbert said thank you for running. He loved him. Everybody loved him everywhere. And they gave him his own network television show for 10 years. That Hollywood gave him Emmy nominations. Oprah said she hoped he ran for president and that she would run with him. So all they have left now is to call him Hitler or say, now the latest thing this week is that they're saying that his generals said that, well, here, I'll play it for you. This is what they're saying.
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had.
Really? He wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had? Because I don't know if you know, you mean he wanted generals that were constantly plotting to try to blow him up? Because that's what Hitler had. So... Here we go, a little feedback. Hold on, here we go.
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him.
Well, it's weird that he wants a military that's loyal to him, because I don't know if you know how the Constitution works, because the military is supposed to be loyal to the President of the United States. It's called civil control of the military. And that's what it's called, civilian control. And that's why we don't have a military control of the military. We have civilian control of the military, and they're supposed to listen to him. And it turns out, by the way, this whole story came from a noted liar, Jeffrey Goldberg. Remember, he said this lie? Trump said Americans who died in war are losers and suckers. Jeffrey Goldberg in The Atlantic. Completely made up. That was already debunked. And who wrote this one? I need the kind of generals that Hitler had? Jeffrey Goldberg. It's again totally fucking made up, and it's by the same piece of shit who was, by the way, an IDF soldier. That's who Jeffrey Goldberg
was?
Yeah, you don't know that?
No.
I can't believe a Goldberg's an IDF soldier. That's crazy.
No, I wouldn't, because it's a very Brooklyn sounding kind of pussy name. It's not like an Israeli tough guy name. It's not.
So,
it's not like a Netanyahu.
Great actor. What happened to him?
all I'm saying is I don't know if Trump admires Hitler's generals, but I have been to Dollar General, and I know they're lying because everything there is not a dollar. Anyway, so that I just want to get that out of the way. This is another one of those completely made up stories. Like Trump said, there's great people on both sides, and he said that about Nazis and white supremacy. He didn't say this is the same. He said you should put bleach to fight. He didn't say that. All this stuff. If Trump is so horrible, why do you have to make stuff up to make people hate him? Why do you have to make it up? Which this is made up, and it was made up by Jeffrey Goldberg. By the way, The Atlantic is owned by, who's it owned by?
Widow Jobs.
It's Steve Jobs' ex-wife.
Best friend of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Best friend of Ghislaine Maxwell.
I mean, these people aren't friends with anyone, but they were close.
That's right. So just remember, this is what NBC News had to say. A network of just keep in mind that we have civilian control of the military for a reason. So a network of public interest groups and lawmakers nervous about former President Trump's potential return to power is quietly devising plans to foil any effort on his part to pressure the U.S. military to carry out his political agenda, the agenda that people fucking voted for. Guess who's unconstitutional? NBC and the goddamn fucking public. Anyway, I sound like Joe Biden. I get so upset. Fucking garbage! Garbage people!
You see General Miley next to him?
Yeah,
General Miley's the one who's like, I'd like to get to the bottom of male rage.
I'm going to show you General Miley in a second. I have a video of General. But anyway, by the way, when they say public interest group, you know that it's never in the public interest, right? I just want to remind you of this. So when Trump was president, remember that time when Trump wanted to pull out of Syria? You know, like he ran on being an anti-interventionist, and he wanted to pull the troops out of Syria, and his own generals lied to him about the number of troops stationed in Syria, so that would make Trump think that a withdrawal was happening. Now, that's not just a tweet. I'm going to show you know who else says that? This is from Defense One. The top Syrian envoy admitted that they lied to Trump about how many troops. That's unconstitutional. That's subverting democracy. That's called fucking treason, ladies and gentlemen. That's treason, not what Donald Trump is asking his generals to do.
Make treason a capital punishment again. Seriously, we got to do that, dude.
Mattis, remember, so Mattis, he resigned after a clash with Trump over troop withdrawals from Syria. And so Trump wanted to withdraw the troops. Mattis didn't want to. They lied to Trump about how many troops Trump found out, and then he made him resign. So you had to quit over this. So the exact opposite of what the media is telling you happened. How can you read this and not go, wait a minute, why would you be telling the military not to follow the orders of the civilian commander-in-chief? Why isn't that? So they don't anyway. So
are we Pakistan now?
No shit, right? That's what it feels like.
We're not even Brazil.
That's what it feels like. So here I want to show you this just to remind.
Oh wait, no, that's the clip. I was just going to say, there's a clip of the guy saying, instead of 500, which is what they told Trump, it's actually like 5,000 or 6,000, and he's got the clip. So let it play, please. Sorry.
People, they're having these press conferences, and this guy here he's coming in from Syria, and he's taking questions from the media at the State Department briefing. Watch this. Here we go.
How many U.S. troops are there in Iraq and Syria right now?
Now, the official number was 500. That's what they were saying. That's what they were telling Trump and the media, how many troops they had in Syria. They say, oh, just 500, just enough to secure the oil. But the real number was somewhere around 4,000 or 5,000. And so this guy slips up and he actually tells the truth. That's called a gaffe in Washington, when you accidentally tell the truth. So watch what happens. He asks him, how many troops?
How many U.S. troops are there in Iraq and Syria right now?
So we have approximately 55,000 Syrian, or 5,000. I'm sorry, I think it's a little over 4,000 U.S. troops in Syria right now that are supporting efforts against Daesh and supporting the SDF.
So now the reporter actually knows the actual number. When he's going to say it back to him. Watch this.
So you have 4,000 U.S. troops in Syria, because I thought that previously the number was 1,000. This would be 4 times, well, it was actually 500, but you're saying 4,000 U.S. troops are currently in Syria?
I'm sorry, I misspoke there. There are approximately 500 troops in Syria.
Now, we all laughed in this room because we see how transparently full of shit that Army guy is, but guess who else laughed? What?
Approximately 500 troops in Syria.
The whole press corps laughed right in that guy's fucking face.
Now say your own names. That's how I get out of it. That's how I kill that laugh.
All right, so that's a lot to take in. There's a lot of misunderstandings that have created this big emotional gap of those two Americas that were created, and we got to close that gap. But before we do that, what do you got to say, Scott?
I mean, yeah, man. So just basically what I was gonna say with what I know we're about to watch and what we're about to get into is really just like the disconnect between reality and what these people perceive, which is a condition of all the mainstream media brainwashing. And it's like all the people that you're about to see freaking out and melting down and having these existential crises, they're literally freaking out about things that are not even based in reality, the things that they've
false evidence appearing real.
Yes.
That's what fear is.
Yes. And it's like it's the only thing they have. It's the only thing they have to go against Trump.
Really is.
The only criticisms they have
and it
are
doesn't
all
help
fabrications.
Them. If they list 10 things they hate about Trump that are making them upset, and you show them that the 10 things aren't actually reflective of reality, they don't feel better. What is that? What is that mechanism? What is going on there? Because that's different. Is that implant? Is that like they took MK Ultra public and that's part of the damage?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. And then really the only other thing I was going to comment on that previous block of clips, it's like, so that first clip of Trump going off, like I was like, it was kind of interesting because I haven't seen him with that much energy in a long time. So I don't know when that clip was made, but he's like,
he has one on the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because that was, I believe, from a couple years ago. I saw clips of that being circulated and somebody pointed out.
That's his plan for 2024, though.
He put that out when you couldn't find media of him, so it was on Rumble somewhere. So I don't think the post showed when it was put out, but especially the discussion of Section 230 led me to believe that was from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, because he says when I am president. So I actually saw that. Yeah, the Second Amendment one being shared around recently. And it kind of like it was being portrayed as if he had just released it like this week or something.
Well, RFK Jr. released it this week on his YouTube page. So that's, the perception that it just came out that's where it came from.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that'd be great. That'd be great. But anyway, I just thought that was something to point out that like he does, but just the fact that he doesn't have that level of energy anymore. Maybe, okay, so he's been campaigning 5 campaign stops a day for months, but so you got to give him some slack there. But at the same time, it is kind of a stark
fish.
Yeah, and French fries, but it's still a stark contrast between the two, like that clip and then today for sure.
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come